Or it sound like Mel Gibson and his wife.
All right, it says it's recording, so here we go.
All right. So, what you doing today, or what you doing this evening? Because the sun ain't fully set here. So, what you
Well,
got?
okay. So where I am right now, it's black. It's 10:30 p.m. So I just have like some candlelight, and otherwise it's just pitch black. It's just better for my concentration.
Yeah, I'm just walking up the hill and trying to give my dogs the last walk of the day.
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this verse in the Tao. That's how you call it, right? It's a verse. That's what I say.
Or a stanza or whatever, man. Yeah, verse, sure.
So it's 80. I don't know if you know them by number, but it's like one of
81.
my 80.
Oh, you're talking about 80, yeah, 80, yeah, yeah. 80 is the one about like people enjoying their food and everything, right?
Yeah, it says people, well, it says people enjoy their food, take pleasure in being with their families, spend weekends working in their garden, delight in doing things of the neighborhood, and even though the next country is so close that people can hear the roosters crowing and its dogs barking, they are content to die of old age without ever having gone to see it. So I was just wondering what that means to you in regards to traveling, because you've traveled so much.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel like yeah, the more I traveled, the more I felt like everywhere was the same, and traveling kind of did become redundant to where it felt like kind of offensive and unnecessary. Like I don't really need to be pushing my body around like this, and I don't need to like go into these other places. You know what I mean? Like unless it's like a travel circumstance that I really felt like matched my what I needed to evolve. I kind of beat a dead horse with the travel. I feel like a lot of travel, like when it's like your conscious will, like where you're like, I want to do this specific thing, like it kind of interferes with the process of like just like the spontaneity of life, and like the way, when sometimes you just can just when you're open for surprises that you don't really know where you're gonna go, and it's kind of better in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah. So kind of like going with the flow with travel rather than like planning. I mean, because I know a lot of people when it comes to travel, like they think that their life is going to change. And I feel like, I mean, as a person that hasn't traveled a lot, usually traveling is a big deal for me and like a big deal for my nervous system as well. But I feel like when you've traveled enough, it is kind of like all the same.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, because you can kind of just like once you've done it, you kind of get used to like the rhythm of travel itself, like the whole act of traveling, and
Mhm.
then like the whole act of like becoming acclimated to whatever equilibrium is happening. But like everywhere is kind of like since colonialism, like everywhere is kind of like balanced out in like its own weird way to where it's the same like
Right.
than others, but it's still kind of the same. It's still kind of the same everywhere.
So do you feel like I know the first time that I went out of the country and I was like in a place where I didn't really speak the language. It it was a really big deal. It was like kind of like being born again, if that makes sense. It's like being senseless. I don't know if you can relate to that at all. Like when you first started traveling.
It kind of does, like, I guess, because you gotta it brings you down to like your core of communication where you're just like pointing at things and you're like, can we make this happen? Like, I'm saying, I know you don't know what I'm saying at all, but I'm gonna kind of initiate this communication through like the most rudimentary ways I can. Like it's almost like guerrilla shit, like
Yeah.
or grunting.
Yeah, and it's kind of like I don't know, when you go to another country, it's kind of like seeing a new species for the first time. I mean, because like everyone from different countries, like we all look different. I mean, America's kind of a melting pot, but like when you go to other countries in the world where like
Yeah,
most of the people look
concentration of
the same.
one phenotype.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like if you bring somebody from one country that looks really different, it's like it's really different. And I feel like then the people interact a lot differently because it's like meeting somebody from a completely different culture. Whereas, like, in America, we're so used to seeing cultures, like different cultures, especially if you go to a city.
Yeah, I mean, it's really it's funny though, like how everywhere the basic operations are the same, but yeah, you know, you kind of stick out like a sore thumb. Like I don't know, I've been, you know, over many parts of Asia, and it's more, it's a sharper contrast to being in Asia for me. You know,
Yeah.
being that I'm taller than most of the population. Like, don't let me get like stereotypical. There's some tall Asians out there, but like, you know what I mean. But like for the most part, you know, when I go to especially Southeast Asia, it's like it really is like, you know, you can see you coming from a mile away, and it's like everybody is kind of on their wave and you're on a totally different wave, and like your processes are different. Like you can like almost feel that like they're processing everything in a different language, even in their head, you know,
Right.
all their thoughts are in a different language.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like going to a new country, or at least like just traveling someplace new, it's kind of like I was saying, it's like being born again, kind of. Like everything just kind of feels new a bit. And then it's like it kind of just cracks you open and like maybe it's an opportunity to kind of fill yourself with a light because like going to a new place can kind of be like unstable. It's like, okay, this isn't my home. And so it's like emotionally like finding ways to restabilize yourself. It kind of is like emotional gymnastics to travel.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, man, because like the more raw you are, the more it's different. Like as far as the like, if you were really the type of person that just eats like a cadre of things, if you just eat a bunch of random stuff and you have no real like boundary as far as eating, and then like you just try out any custom anything, you know, from flesh to fruit, whatever. It's like, you know, you go to different places and you can try different foods. You know, like if I go to certain places, like I'm not even gonna eat any of their food. So
Yeah,
like it's
they
not
do.
even gonna be it's not gonna be it's not gonna be any different. Like I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna look for the nearest smoothie bar or fruits, or you know, if I'm in Costa Rica, I can go to Walmart and get a blender. Man, you know what I'm saying? It's whatever. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of not like, it's kind of like if you're depending on like what you're doing, like you can kind of make everywhere the same place if you're like, you know, heavy into the raw foods and stuff. Like really ain't no different. Like, you know what I mean? But if you're like up for trying different customs as far as food, I feel like then your body kind of does get shocked because you're getting like a different level, I guess. You go closer to the source, you know, you go to Latin America or somewhere and you get a papaya down there. It's not
Yeah.
traveling as far, maybe. So it's a little different for your body, but
So like
there, it's not really a shock.
yeah. So like food is kind of a big part of every culture. But then do you find that because you've traveled to a lot of different places, but do you find that the emotional basis of different cultures is different?
Um,
Just like their energy, like South America,
yo,
Europe, Asia.
this what I'm saying. Like, no, this is why I mean everybody's the same but different. Like, you know, like, ah, man, it's crazy because Asia wouldn't have noodles if it wasn't for Marco Polo. But
Mhm.
it's like either way, like you kind of have. I mean, somebody would have brought the noodle eventually, but I'm just saying, like, either way, everybody's pretty much eating the same trash. Like, you know, I feel like Asians, they don't eat eggs for breakfast, but for the most part, everybody's pretty much eating starch and flesh, and you know, it's just they might have a different one. You know, like in Egypt, they eat kosheri, and that's just like lentils, garbanzos, noodles, and rice. You know what I mean? That's like It's cheap. Pretty much everybody eats it like at least once a day. A lot of the population eats it. If you go somewhere else, they just eat like a different starch with a different sauce on it. But it's like it's all the same. Like it's just different. It's hilarious how people like act like things is different. It's just like a different arrangement. Like you've seen the meme when they say like they act like veganism is so limiting, but meanwhile they only eat like 5 different dead animals, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like potatoes, wheat, rice. What else? What am I missing? I don't think I'm missing nothing. Like that's it. Like that's it. People like
That's so
arrange those
cool.
things, like, and then like they play with the tomato, I guess. But like it's funny, man, how things have. I mean, people are in different emotional states, obviously, but like it's such a crazy arrangement to where people think they have like a mind, like a comfort level and like an attachment to things, like as far as like Italian cuisine having the tomato in it, but the tomatoes from the Americas. And the
Right.
potato, you got the Italian, I mean, you got the Irish, so attached or commonly associated with potatoes, or Russians associated with potatoes and vodka, but potatoes from Latin America. So it's like people are like, that's how it's kind of like it doesn't really matter where the food comes from, as long if you genetically manipulate it, make it starchy, it's kind of all the same. It's just different people's preferences, I guess. You know what I mean? But everybody's pretty much eating the same thing in like a different arrangement.
Yeah. So you feel like, I don't know, because I feel a lot of the people that I met from other countries were, or all right, let me phrase that differently. A lot of people that I've met from other countries always thought that Americans were like not in touch with the essence of life, or like they weren't as happy as like their home country or any other place that they've been. What do you think of that?
European Americans, probably European Americans, because like you know I, I've lived in other countries. Like when I was living in Europe, I was living in Serbia. My roommate, he was African American, and it was different. It's a different take on it. Like they kind of it's kind of compartmentalized a little bit. Like they look at European Americans as like, yeah, pretty much being like typical in the way they are severed from their cultures in Europe, I guess, however you want to look at that, and whatever you want to say about that, they're kind of separate from that, and more so like kind of like assembly line people. But when I feel like when it comes to like the African American, generally around the world, they're kind of like revered and like welcomed. I don't know if it's because what they've been subjected to, or if it's just because the flavor that comes out of the American African, but it's like it's just as if people receive different ones, different ways, like I think generally if they see an Asian person that looks like a typical, stereotypical Asian person, then, around the world, I don't even think that they expect them to come out of their mouth sounding like they're from the British Isles, or they're from New Jersey, or, you know what I mean? Like, but, it's funny, you go to Australia, you see a lot of Asians sounding like Aussies. So like,
Yeah,
I feel like people are received like a bunch of different ways. It's like they see you, then when you come out of your mouth and sound away, there's like a whole nother reception. And then it's like, then they feel the way that you say your words, and it's like another you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
as far as words, I guess if you sound stuck up, or if you sound down to earth, or whatever it is, it's kind of
Mhm.
like people like I've gone a lot of places. Everywhere I've been, at some level, people think I was a local. Like even in parts of Africa, because colonization of Africa. So
Right.
people wouldn't know, or they think I'm from somewhere else. Like I was in South Africa, and they were just like, I thought you was Portuguese. You know what I mean? I thought you might have been Brazilian. And there's
Mhm.
like, as soon as you talk, you give it up though. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And like, and so it's kind of funny how like you kind of got like a before and after like judgment. Like as soon as you speak, you kind of like you really do give a lot up.
Yeah.
Because if I speak and I sound like I'm from Texas, then I'm gonna be received a totally different way than if I sound like this, how I sound right now.
So okay, so that was something that I wanted to ask you. So So the way that you talk, I mean, you have like your own accent. I mean, it's like very clear in all of your videos and like just in person and everything like that. So how do you think that how do you think that that affects how you come across to people? Like all the different people that you reach on the internet?
A lot of people say different things about my voice, you know. Some people say I sound like Will Smith. Some people say I sound like a bunch of different things. I've heard a bunch of different things about my voice. Like your voice sounds nice. To me it kind of sounds nasally. But like um I think it's because I was just exposed to a lot of different people. Like my brother was from LA
Mhm,
and we had different dads. His dad's from Detroit. So like his Detroit family bled into his speech and he's my older brother. So like the slang and the way I pronounce things, some things are Detroit that
mhm,
influenced, and then of course Los Angeles influenced, and then or California, I guess. And and my mom is like super hard, just like certain, you know, she says closet and stuff like that, super hard Jersey with a lot of words, you
mhm,
know. So it's like some words are like I say them like from the like this is the different regions of my like my life, different times of my life, different periods. I say certain words based on like the influence of those times, like you know what I mean, like spent so much time in California, like 12 years now,
mhm.
so it's like over a third of my life. So some words I say like a Californian, and then some words I still like they're just embedded. I sound like my mom the way she says it, and like you know, and some things is like my brother. So it's just funny how like I just feel like it's such a collage because I run into some people and they're like, "Where you from? You know, you from the South or something?" I was like, "Nah, I did live in Tennessee. Maybe that's what you
Mhm.
hear right now. I don't know. Like you know what I mean? I don't. It's funny how like people's ears is different too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you feel like do you feel like people receive you differently because of the way that you talk or not really?
Oh, for sure, man. Like 'cause some people, if like they just hear a video where they don't see me, it's like they get a different perception altogether. And and then if you know, if they only see me, like if they only see pictures and they only just see my Facebook and they never hear me talk, then they get another perception. So it's definitely something that influences the way people receive me for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, and so like with pictures and stuff, I mean, well, I guess tattoos are I mean, more accepted now. But that's another question that I wanted to ask. So, your tattoos, do you feel like so when you got them, were they like pivotal moments in your life? And like did you feel different after you got them like imprinted into your skin?
You know, I drew all my tattoos. You know what I mean? I think it's like one tattoo I didn't draw actually. There's one I didn't draw, and just the Sri Yantra on my left arm I didn't draw, but the rest of them like I drew. And
Mhm.
I was always into the arts. You know, my mom is an art major, and so she influenced me greatly in that way. And I kind of just like I really enjoyed the art of it, you know. And
Mhm.
like tattoos is like a kind of a weird thing for me. Like and I'm seasonal with them for sure. Like I don't really see myself getting one, but I always say that and then I get another one. So
Right.
I just, you know what I mean? I don't really know. And it could happen again. I don't really know, but I really just enjoyed drawing it and then meeting the artists. And because all artists have really enjoy that because I draw one and then they'll be like, all right, how you feel about this? They'll redraw it, make the stencil. And I'm like,
Right.
let's adjust it this way. I kind of like that whole process. And
Yeah.
then, and then I like the process of watching it too, you know, like, cause honestly, the tattoos, they never hurt when I can look at them. Like if I can see the needle, then it doesn't really bother me. But when it's like on my back, or if I can't
Mhm.
look at it for some reason, I don't know. If I'm looking away, I start to feel the pain. But if I stare at it, it's kind of like mind over matter or something.
Do you think that it does anything have it being like imprinted into your skin? It like energetically?
Probably. I mean, since the way things manifest from less dense to dense, I mean, it probably was like kind of already there before it was done, and then it like
Mhm.
bled into the surface. You know what I mean? Then I just made it more and more concrete and everything.
That
So
makes
like,
sense.
yeah, I think that's kind of how it went for me with tattoos. Like I'm like, you know what, this should have always been here. You know what, I'm okay with it. You know, with the tattoos. Like I don't have a problem with any of my tattoos, man. I really do. I'm happy with all of them. So I know a lot of people are not happy with their tattoos. You know, I met a lot of people at least like that.
Do you think part of it is because you're always like you're detached from your physical appearance, so you can appreciate them more?
Yeah, I guess they're the only thing that's kind of constant.
Mhm.
And they're like, okay, yeah, it's still me, you know, because everything else is kind of like subject to change. Like I cut all my hair off right now. I go bald. I don't care. You know what I mean? It doesn't. I grow the dreads back out. It doesn't. I don't care. It doesn't really. I don't know. I cut the beard off, keep the beard, grow the beard flagrantly. It's whatever,
Mhm.
really. Like, kind of.
Right.
Yeah, I don't really matter to me.
So, all right. So, when you're in a place where you're like emotionally detached from your physical appearance, do you think that that's part of the breatharian journey? Like, do you feel like you can't actually focus on the way that your body looks really at all? Because, like you said, it's like your body is a manifestation of the inside. So, focusing on the
I de-
outside, you can't really work from the outside in.
I definitely feel like, you know, when you're in society and you're dealing with people's intentions, it's kind of a bitch, man. It really is kind of a bitch. Like, 'cause you're really dealing with people's expectations, you know? Like
Hmm.
if I was to go Waltarian, then I gotta go see my mom or my brother. I gotta see them looking at me with the expectation of me being a certain way. So then it's like when I disappoint that expectation, that's the energy that I gotta deal with when I see them seeing me. So it's like you're dealing with that intention, and, you know, and it takes a little while to not really care. You know what I mean? To
Yeah.
just be like, all right, well, I'm more concerned with how I feel on the inside, like you're saying.
So, like, how do you think that somebody would perceive you if you went vegetarian?
Oh, I mean, people are gonna just say that you're starved or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, 10 days on water, and, you know, people already start to change their face on me. So it's like it's
Mm.
just the expectation of people. People, you know, they have their preconceived notions of what health is or what strength is, and they take what their perception is and like overlay it over you, and they feel like, you know, they have to, either they express it or they can't restrain themselves from expressing it. So it's kind of like, you know, it's either seeps out or they just like upfront about it. So I don't know. It's either way. It's kind of like a, you know, elephant in the room when you get to a certain level of svelte. But like if I meet people for the first time and I've been fasting, you know, or coconut water for a whole month or something,
Mhm.
it's like, you know, if I meet them for the first time, they just see me as that, you know, and it doesn't really. They just like, okay, you're slim. You know what I mean? It's just what you are. This is, you know what I mean? I don't know you as being 230 pounds
Right.
and you know, playing sports the way I expect you to, or whatever they, you know what I mean? That is not there. So you're not dealing with that. Like they, you know, at some level they look at you like they put you in the category of slim, but it's not the same as someone that has seen you another way.
How does that affect you? Like, you know, like you were just saying.
But maybe more the old people.
Hmm?
You broke up there. What did you say?
How does that affect you? You know, like for, somebody that saw you before versus now, like how does that emotionally affect you, like their judgments, or does it at all?
I mean, I different had different periods of feeling like, you know, a different way. You know, like at this point in my life, it is kind of like a battle with self more so.
Mhm.
Come on, boy. It is a battle with self more so because it's like, you know, you see the person in the mirror and it's like, man, um, I know that I couldn't do certain things that I have associated with my youth. You know, like as far as not right now. I feel like as far as like if unless Waltarian is really the only step, I feel like I can do all the same things on a coconut water diet where I'm still breaking ketosis, with the
Mhm.
coconut sugars and with the the green juices that have fruit sugars in them. I feel like whenever the ketosis is being broken, I can still do all the same things really, that make me happy as far as like athletics. So like I pretty much I'm gonna enjoy that phase until I no longer feel the need to prove that to myself, like that I need to dunk a basketball to have value or that I need to throw a ball 70 yards to have value. But, until, once I get to that point, then I feel like, yeah, that whether the Waltarianism brings me to that point or if I reach a point that brings me to Waltarianism, I feel like, it'll all happen as it's supposed to. And I can't really rush it or I'll just probably yo-yo anyway.
Right. So that raises another question, actually. So along the breatharian process, do you feel like, I mean, okay, so say somebody first finds out about the ability of being breatharian. I mean, like you said, we're all breatharian, but when being Watarian or something like that like really resonates with somebody, it's not like they can wake up the next day and like just be that. So like you
Yeah.
can't force it. And so do you think that the whole like none of the process can really be forced at all?
N- no, because then you just yo-yo. You putting up like a wall, and you're trying to force things. So it's like you're just gonna you'll probably stay yo-yoing longer than you would if you just didn't force it. If you just gradually
Yeah.
change, then it'll probably end up happening faster than if you try to force it. So I feel like yeah, like it's a funny thing with that, like because at some level you have to experience what you have to experience to genuinely not desire the things that you're desiring currently. Like if I'm desiring to go play ball in Brazil for one last time to play and everything, and that's really there, and it's like a debate in me, I kind of, at some level, got to respect it. Like, all right, well, this energy's still here, and obviously there's something that probably has to get done or undone, and through this experience, and a lot of it has to do with expectation too. Like you can't sign up for XYZ and not go through A through X. It's kind of
Right.
like, I want to be breatharian or Waltarian. Well, it's like, yeah, you're gonna have to give up a lot of things. Like maybe you could do it like quickly, within 21 days, and be on your way and just be Waltarian. But like it it would be it would be a lot of letting go as far as your expectations. Again, like I'm saying, like if I'm gonna be content to the point where I can be Waltarian, then I'm in a space where I'm really no longer chasing, and I'm no longer feeling the need to prove anything to my idea of myself or to others. So like it's it's just a different place, It's just a different place to be in. If you have that in you to where you like, I want to be breatharian so that I can, I don't know, take advantage of not having to spend money or whatever, or be able to do this, or be able to show people and prove it to people, or dominate in some other way, or whatever. Like all of that is just gonna make it. It's never gonna happen. You know what I mean? So it really has to be from the inside out. Like you really have to get to a point where you're kind of fed up with it, like in a sense, where you're just like, you know what? Like however people do it with any level, when they're like, all right, I've eaten enough animals and enough eggs and enough milk. I really don't ever need to do this again.
Mhm.
Clarity is there to where like it doesn't bother me to never do that again.
Right.
Because if it's not sincere, then you're definitely gonna yo-yo, and you're definitely it's gonna be painful. It's gonna be an awful process. Like so, it's like yeah, if you're really genuinely money hungry, like you really should go do the things that bring those things to you until you're no longer happy. You know what I mean? With that process, with the process of it. Because if somebody was to give you a bunch of energy, a bunch of money right now, yeah, like you might accept it. But if you don't enjoy the process that goes into generating it and everything like that, then you really don't enjoy it. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's kind of like the process of things. Like, are you enjoying this process, or are you just focused on this end that
Yeah.
once you get there, you're gonna Yeah, because like you're like, oh, I'm breatharian. Like if somebody's like, oh, I'm breatharian, like I'm breatharian right now. It's like, okay, now what? Like it's like a now what thing. So it's kind of like what is going to bring you to that place of just being in the moment to where you're like fully in your body, fully in the moment, and you're not like on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing, and like it's just it's just a process of like really unlearning because you got to really unlearn. A lot of people are caught up in a again like expectation and their ideas of things and just their values. They have a different value system that they're you can't bring certain value systems into the lifestyle of breatharianism. Like it's just not
Absolutely.
going to happen. So it's kind of like, are you genuinely content with tantric sex or celibacy or not caring about material things? Like are you really no longer feeding that fuel and feeding that fire? So it's like, if you're sincere about that, then it won't be a challenge in a sense. At some level, it'll just be like breathing, the process. But if you're not really sincere, then you still need to go and find out what it's like to really get those things. You know what I mean? And or get to a sick of the process of trying to get those things that you're like, okay, all right, I now I'll just take my values. I'll look at these things a different way. And I think that, yeah, that's it really. A lot of people just trying to, like for me, like when I was first going vegan, I really just was like, man, I know this is something amazing. I felt like I was so ahead. And at
Mm.
the time I really was 12 years ago. So I'm like, yo, like this is something I want to share with people and I could show people, I could blow all these people's minds, that's my peers and everything. And I could really, you know, turn up as far as this football thing is concerned and
Mhm.
go to the league and be this other person that operates a different way and I could change the world and you know what I mean and I could prove it to people. But as soon as I like got deep into it, as soon as I really was like my body had clicked into vegan and raw vegan, it was like, man, I don't really give a fuck about football. I don't give a fuck about proving anything to anybody.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like a conflict of identity at that point.
So, I mean, it really does have to be, it really does have to flow from one stage to the next. Because if it's not, then the person is really kind of still stuck in duality because otherwise you wouldn't yo-yo. Like if you weren't caught in like the black and white. I feel like when people are caught in the
Yeah,
black and white of like, especially when it comes to diet or like something like that, say um liquid versus raw or like raw versus cooked, it's like they're really still thinking like that one is wrong and one is right. But really when you're going with the flow, nothing is actually wrong. It's just the flow of like how it's going. And like
yeah,
that's how you
exactly. Like
can travel peacefully.
yeah, like if you're really blind to it, like in the Tao Te Ching, it says like, if you make a mistake, you're forgiven if you're really blind to it. But when you are consciously doing things you shouldn't, it's different. Like if you're being raised on trash foods, like it's kind of different than like if you were privy to the information and the experience to cross-reference the information to where you felt it in your body. Like these foods feel better in my body than these foods. Like it's different. Once you've applied it and you feel it in your body and it's in practice at that point, it's different than just being privy to the information. So once you've exposed yourself to that, to the experience and the practicality of it, then it's really different. It's like
It's
if
kind of
you go
inevitable
if
at that
you're
point.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like if you're into drinking and you're in college or high school or whatever, you're drinking, it's fun times probably because you're just ignorant. You know what I mean? You don't know the damage. Like at some level, you really don't realize the damage because you haven't seen the other side of it. So
Right.
like once you get to the other side of it and like you become acquainted with milk thistle and dandelion root and burdock and things like that to like help, keep your liver in order, things like that, like once you clean the liver out and then you try to reintroduce those things, you really feel the pain of it. So it's like it becomes impossible to ignore at that point. And so that's why a lot of people will stay blind to keep the, to stay ignorant, to keep a level of innocence in a sense.
That makes sense. Do you think that somebody can get exposed to this information at too young of an age? Like, do you think that you do need to be kind of, like maybe in your mid 20s or 30s for this to actually click, like physically? Or do you think that,
Uh, no, I think it just depends on your experiences, man. Like and not just necessarily like you need to travel the world and see all these things. I just feel like it experiences in your body. Like once you've experienced, once you've practiced it and you really feel it in your body, like something needs to change, and then you've been exposed to other people that might be practicing these things, and it becomes it's no longer like any excuse for you. And I mean, the universe knows what you know. The consciousness, your consciousness is not separate from the overall consciousness. So
right,
once you've been exposed to it, the world, the universe or whatever, it's like, okay, I know you know, yo. You can't act like you don't know no more. Like, so it's kind of like your life shifts based on that reality, not based on how much you blind yourself at that point. It's all about how would you really digest it.
right. Okay, so say somebody hears about being breatharian and it resonates. And so, like, in that moment when it, like, clicks in their body, no matter what they do, like, how much they reject it after that, do you think it is kind of an inevitable path to that? No matter, like, how
It's
long it
gonna,
takes them and
yeah,
how long they resist it?
yeah, it's gonna fester. You know what I mean? Like, even for me, I tried to put things. I probably try to put it on the back burner at different points in my life where I was like, yeah, I know I have this knowledge of these things, but come on, let me just get this, that, and a third from the world, from the earth,
Right.
and not, what I mean, and not jump into the practice, because I kind of just, I really desire these things. It's almost like telling God to hold on. Like, wait, look, I know better, but like, wait 1 minute, God, let me just do this one more sin, or however you want to look at it. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of how, yeah.
How did that work out for you?
I've caused myself a lot of pain and others a lot of pain, and then which caused me even more pain. So I mean, it was definitely something that I could have avoided. Like, I didn't have to go through those things, but at some level, maybe I did. Maybe I had to scrape my knee enough times to learn how to ride a bike. I don't know. Like I
So
said, it greets people a different way.
right. So when you moved to California and you became vegan, I mean, was vegan like the new wave over there, or was it still kind of a minority and people were like, what the hell is this? This is kind of
It
weird.
was still a minority.
So what made you be like, this makes sense? It's not, so if it wasn't like, okay, this is a new wave and like which I can't imagine that you would do this, just like knowing how you are, to be like, this is a new wave, like I'm gonna hop on this. Like from what I know, from knowing you, I would imagine that like just something clicked inside of you and you were like, I literally don't care what anybody thinks. This just makes sense to me.
Well, yo, like really, what did it was kind of like I met this raw vegan lady, and she was like 60 something, and her skin was so amazing, and like I had heard, I was into the other information already at that point. Like I ran into Sebi, the Sebi information
Mm-hmm.
that already crossed me. So like, but I hadn't really fully like accent some words with. I was missing some words like on some of the
Mm-hmm.
points he was making. But like, you know, once I met this lady, she was like 60 something, and she was the first real true blue vegan I met. Because you meet a lot of people that's vegan that's not really vegan.
Yeah.
But I met her, and she was just so calm, and her skin was so flawless. And I was like, man, you're like 66 years old, and your skin looks like this. And I had struggled with acne, throughout a lot of my high school time. And I was just like, man, like, I want my skin to glow like that. And like, I really, but beyond the skin thing was the calm. Like, she was just so much more calm than I had ever known a person to be, And I just felt like my life was so erratic, and the way I felt inside my body was so erratic that I was like, man, whatever this is, I want to be calm like this. Like, that was kind
Yeah.
of the main thing.
It's
Yeah, I just
so
wanted to be
crazy.
calm.
Like every time I've ever met somebody in my life that was like that had a calming effect, it was like pivotal for me. I was always like, wow, like whatever this person's doing, I want to do that because they seem really peaceful and like they like life.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was it. You know what I mean? Because like up until that point in my life was just chaos, and I was just like, man, like I can't really, discern up from down for a lot of things. You know what I mean? For some things, obviously I could, but it was still like I hadn't put it all together, and like I just felt like that was what I valued more than anything. Somebody being that secure in their body to where they just have this unshakable calm.
Well, so okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I mean, I feel bad for people when they hear about being vegan or something like that and they come across a vegan that has like a terrible attitude or like a raw vegan, anything, like along the way that has a terrible
Somebody going
attitude.
through detox symptoms.
Gosh.
What'd you say?
It's like what part did you not hear?
The last bit, the very last bit.
It's just it turns people off like when
Yeah, that's
somebody
what I
has
didn't. That's
that
what I missed.
attitude.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, but that person's probably just going through intense detox symptoms and doesn't know it. You know what I mean? And then, or they're just trying to. They just expect other people to feel what they feel. Like, you can't make people experience it. Like, I don't get that end of it, kind of in a sense where it's like, all right, so if it comes to sex, right? You don't really go up to virgins and be like, you don't understand sex yet? Like, what is
Yeah,
wrong with you? Like,
right.
it's like the same thing, kind of. Like, I feel like that's like where people just like they get lost in that expectation. I don't know how that happens, man. I really don't. Like, um, for me, I guess my expectation, I get like it's typical in a lot of ways. Where I just felt like the people closest to me, I was like, they have to feel the same way I feel. And then when they didn't, I was just like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, how is this? You know what I mean? I didn't even care about the world at large that much. I mean, at some level, I wanted to help people, but I felt like that would come of itself. I was kind of always an inward out person. I was like, okay, so I'm gonna go this way, then get my brother to show, what I mean, I'll show him the diet, then my sister, and then, then since it'll be all three of us, then we'll turn our mom. And then, so none of that shit manifested, you know what I mean? It took a while for me,
Right.
for my sister, you know what I mean? So I was, but I said this level, at this point, I'm just glad to have, just that. Like, I don't, even if my brother never switches, I know my mom probably won't ever switch. I'm just glad that at least I got one of us
Right.
to see it.
So to switch topics for a second, um, how do you feel like see with the breath, it's all about living like closer, living breath to breath. So how do you feel like that influences how you interact on social media, be it Facebook, Instagram, like YouTube? So like when you make videos or like just how you post and how you articulate, how do you think that living breath to breath correlates to that?
I kind of abused it at different times where I was just saying way more than I needed to, and it made all the different statements compete with each other because it was just so much. But
Mm-hmm.
now I can kind of just feel it like, okay, this is worth saying, and I've reached a point in my daily process or my monthly process to where I can kind of confirm that this is what needs to be said right now, and I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go ahead and post this. It's like it's a feeling in my body that I get to where I'm like, okay, this is that really, really want to share energy. That's just like just a genuine, just a genuine want to share energy, really. Like I don't know, sometimes things come across me, and I'm just like, man, like that was dope even for me, like, you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
me hearing my own thought, like, so I feel like, yo, I enjoyed thinking that. I know people gonna enjoy reading this.
Right. That makes sense. A lot of your posts and stuff like that, like they do sound like something that was kind of just downloaded. Like it's not something that you, unless it's like a poem or something like that, it's very blunt and like straight to the point. It's just like so efficiently spoken or written.
Yeah, I kind of always want. I guess that's what you do though, when you research other people, you kind of fill in the gaps that they either don't fill in, or you cut short the areas that you feel like need to be cut short in their rhetoric. You know, like I feel like people don't have the time or the attention span to sit there and watch all 16 hours of Sebi's videos. You know what I mean?
Right.
Most people just don't. So like, if I can give you all 16 hours in 6 minutes, or it's shorter than that, then that's kind of like the goal. That's kind of like what art is. It's kind of like consolidating what's already there, and, flipping it, making it
Well,
more digestible. You know what I mean?
that's what I feel like your posting style is, or like it is a consolidation of energy. It's like really, it like gets down to like the building blocks. It's never like light, if that make, well, do you know what I mean? It's like it's usually like very dense statements that make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's a superfood. It's a superfood statements. Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely like what they say, like your macros. It's a
Yeah.
lot at once, kind of like. Yeah, it's definitely a lot more than a lot of people are used to. I guess people are just. It's kind of like the Tao Te Ching verse 81 when he's like, eloquent words aren't true. True words aren't eloquent. Eloquent words aren't true. I feel like a lot of people just have been trained to appreciate the eloquence more than the substance. And for me, I was just like, no, let all substance. You know what I mean? Let's cut
But
out all of
like,
the fluff as much as possible.
so that's the whole thing though, like you were just saying. I mean, I feel like the consolidation is an art though, because somebody might say something, like one concept might take them pages to articulate, where like it really is an art form to be able to say something in like very few words, like kind of in a
Yeah, and then it's like
thing. Like Lao Tzu
yeah,
really
and then
like,
yeah. Yeah, no, it's amazing. It's a consolidation. But then that's the amazing thing about art in general, because a picture say 1,000 words. You see one picture, and you don't, and the sentiment of the picture is like, I don't even need words for this. This picture says everything.
right.
Like it's kind of there's like a whole nother level of art.
It is.
Getting the
It's
point
like,
across.
do you think, I have this like concept in my mind that I'm trying to put into words, where I feel like when the nervous system is calm enough, then the words come a lot more easily. And you don't have to like scramble to find the right words to communicate.
Yeah, it's just less thoughts per minute, I guess you could say, probably.
Yeah.
I feel like I just have less thoughts now than I used to. Like it was just, and they're not. Before they weren't complete thoughts. Like now it's kind of like a rhythm of the thought. Like, okay, the thought, I can feel it. Like that's the weird thing. Like the creative process, like I can feel like, okay, it's almost like a baby being born when you're like, okay, there's the head. It's coming. Like Now I just need to put like, it's kind of like the same thing I've seen with making music, writing music, where
Right.
it's like, all right, I know I got the ingredients here. I know kind of what I want to say and which words I want to say, but now I just got to get to the end to like kind of tie the knot and make this whole thing a statement or a bar to where it's all just concise and it's the way I want it to be. I already have A and Z. I already have A and Z. I know where I want to start and I know how I want to end this, what point I'm trying to make. And then like the middle is like, how am I going to arrange this to where you can get to Z without losing me? And you know, it's something that I also enjoy to, you know, to where I want to present this to people and express it and enjoy that expression. So it's
Right.
really, it's dope, man. Like soon as you get like your creative process of things that it's when something starts to crown and the baby starts to come out, you like, yo, this is it. Like I know that this is that feeling of creation of something that I need to arrange. Like, because it's kind of just like that. It's more just the arrangement, you know what I mean? Because it's not like you're making anything new, really. It's kind of just like, okay, I can feel these ingredients
Yeah.
coming into my life, and I gotta arrange them now.
Right. So do you feel like a lot of people are living like having, I mean, I've been there, and especially like if I'm really anxious, I will just have like parts of a thought. Like it won't even be a complete sentence. It's just like part of a thought starts, and then like before that gets to finish, another, it's either being suppressed or another one is coming up or something like that. So do you feel like, I mean, people are just living in a state where they're having thoughts and they don't even know it? I mean, I guess that's being unconscious.
Yeah, they're just not being fully processed. Like, or like you could look at it like couple thoughts at the same time, just like if you had like two different songs on at the same time, you
Yeah.
know, and like you're only getting bits and pieces of one or both of them. You're not getting anything. You're not getting the complete picture out of either one.
Mhm. So I know
That's why
that
I feel like people need to be alone now,
that's true.
because then you really get in touch with like the process of thought and then taking a thought and putting it into action
But being alone,
and
do you
the
feel like
rhythm of that.
that also, I mean, you alone from social media as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's, you definitely got to go through that process too. I mean, I deleted my Facebook the whole 2016. I didn't have no Facebook. I deleted at the end of 2015, and I didn't post. I posted one thing on Instagram once a week. I
Mhm.
posted what's the guy's name? It'll come up when I say the quote. It's like, uh, have a happy life and tell no one, travel and tell no one. You know, as the people ruin beautiful things. I think
Mhm.
his name was like Gabriel, so I forget his name, but it's like Khalil or something, I forget. But either way, it's like that's all I posted. You know what I mean? So, and I don't follow nobody. So like I went through that whole process, and at that, you know, that was a really trying year for me because I was really like forced to live right now, and then you know having a lot of other chaotic things happening in my life. It pretty much forced me to address my emotions. So yeah, I feel like definitely, you know, you definitely need those periods and definitely want to get back to those. And as the time goes on, I feel like it's better for the previous posts that I have left to post less and less because it just doesn't create that competition between posts. But I
Right.
guess for people that scroll, I guess it's a totally different thing. It's different. It's probably a different animal for people that scroll. I do not scroll. Like I'm not. You don't catch me scrolling. Like if I go on the gram, I don't follow me. My other accounts, my sister, my brother, a cousin, and then I changed one person. I follow one new person every month, and then or every few weeks, and then I unfollow them and follow somebody else. So that's how I usually do it. And so a lot of times I'll never even it's nothing for me to even scroll. And then so on Facebook, I really never scroll on Facebook. At best, if something is at the top of the timeline when I log in, if it's congruent with the flow that I'm talking about or that I'm expressing in my whole life, then I'll like it. but you'll never really see me ever comment on somebody else's shit or scrolling up and down up and down the timeline. Like it's never, I do not go up and down that feed. I feel like it's better to just be blind like a horse in a race, and then you can just focus on your shit. And then anything that you really, really need to be exposed to, the universe doesn't like hide it from you. It's kind of like just getting in touch with that feeling of, okay, this is a blind spot that I'm coming up on now, and life is showing me something, and I have to make myself available for it. And I feel like I know that feeling in my body now when it's like, all right, let me concede a little bit here and accept, this avenue of information that's coming my way. So I kind of don't even, I never really go outside myself, so that when people do bring information to me, I don't have to think about, is this correct or is this correct? Is this more so my body, like judging the way my body is. Like when it came to when I ran into Martin Kinney's information, people send me videos every day. You know what I mean? People send me videos of things to watch, things to listen to every day. And like, I seldom click on what people send me, and not to disrespect nobody, but I have this feeling in my body that is pretty much just like, this is what you click on, and we're gonna save this feeling for when it really matters. You know what I mean? So like, I remember a bunch of things was being sent to me as normal in 2017. I forgot who it was even. They sent me Martin Kinney's work, and I opened it up in a tab, and I kept it open in a tab for like 3 or 4 days and didn't watch the video yet, but I just made it a point to remember that tab was there. And like, when I opened it up finally, it was only like 300 views on it. And I was like, okay, this might be just some dope organic, video. I don't know. I'm gonna give this dude a chance. And because it just had that feeling in my body. It was kind of the same thing as when the Sebi information hit me. Like, a lot of people are gonna write Sebi off as soon as they hear him talk out of his mouth. They're gonna immediately, he says one thing that isn't congruent with what they've been conditioned to believe, they're gonna cut him off. So like, there's that feeling that I got when Sebi came into my life, when I was like, all right, give him a chance. Let me hear this guy out. But I know that feeling. That feeling came across my body when the link got sent to me. I didn't see Martin Kinney's face. I didn't see the title. Somebody sent me that link. I just put it up and open in a new tab, waited a few days till my life I could settle down to watch that shit. And I was like, see, this is why I listen to my own compass. And this is the type of information that is worth, because, it's really about your own compass, keeping it clear to where when information hits you, you're like, I don't need to question this. It's not one of the things I need to question.
Do you feel like some of the information that you came across didn't resonate at first, and then you maybe re-listened to it like down the line and it completely made sense?
Only thing that I could say that I didn't digest would be things that I just, the presence in my own body. Like, I just did not have the attention span to digest those things. I didn't have the vocabulary at the time. I was like 18 years old. I just didn't have certain tools already installed in me to where that I could even, I just didn't have the patience, at that time. So certain things just flew by me. But
right.
I guess in a lot of ways, I was exposed to what I needed to be exposed to where, like, if I had to revisit it, I kind of know where to go. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have to go and research or find some person. I knew, like, all right, so I ran into this raw vegan lady and she blew my mind. So that's right. It was definitely Sebi that put me on to this idea, but I didn't digest exactly what he was saying. I didn't look at the nutritional guide. I just kind of just got the gist of what he was saying. So I was like, now that I've seen it in living color, in real life, I've seen a person that actually practices and they embody it. It was kind of like, okay, so this is how it's, okay, now I know exactly where I got to go back to and review it. And that's what I did. I went back and I just watched hours of Sebi, hours of Dr. Africa, and just digested, you know what I mean? Like, and just, that was pretty much it. Like, it was just a big digestion process, really.
So do you feel like, how far, all right, when you met this raw vegan woman and you felt like her presence and her calmness, because that's what it really is, right? Like her calmness and her peace is just a result of her presence. And so,
Yeah.
um, and now you were saying that that was like a really big contrast for you. Um,
Never seen any.
yeah. So like at the time, do you feel like that's something that you can only articulate now, or were you like, did you have any idea why you wanted to emulate this woman, or was it just something that you couldn't really
Well,
describe?
I guess at some level it was ineffable because I never had any experiences before her that resonated in my body like that. But
Hmm.
again, like seeing her skin, you know, I felt it on the inside and then I felt it on the outside. It was like, okay, I'm feeling your energy on my fucking eyes. How you look 66 years old and your skin looks better than my shit. And like, I'm 18 and, you
Right.
know, and I could just see like the steadiness in her and how she was confident. She ain't had nothing to prove. Like, you know, like I was like,
So
cause you know,
I
do
was
you feel
typical, man.
like,
I was just like anybody. I was like, yo, so what do you eat? Okay, so if you're raw vegan, how do you eat without cooking food? And she was just so relaxed and confident that I was like, oh, she's not bullshitting here.
but when you look back on that now, do you actually see like, wow, she must have been breathing like so peacefully?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Now, yeah, there was way less obstruction. I don't know. You know, that was my only encounter with her. I spent the night at her house because the guy she was seeing was a friend of my mom's, and it's actually the guy Peter Allen. He's the guy that wrote the movie Takers and the movie Red Tails. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, right? So I was hanging out with him, and that was the chick he was seeing, and he was not vegan or raw vegan by a long shot. He didn't eat, you know, he was slim, but he wasn't eating like her. And I could just tell, like she was just like confident in herself, and it wasn't trying to change nobody. And I just, yeah, like I don't know, like I did not plan on meeting her. I didn't. It just was kind of like that exchange was very short. I saw her that night, and she was. I didn't. I never got to really ask her other questions. You know, like I don't even. I could probably ask him, like, yo, who? Like now, I got still contact with him. I could like, yo, who is that lady? Uh,
Right.
you know. But like, it was. I
Yeah, I
never
wonder
got
if
to.
this woman even knows. Like, does she even know that she like influenced you like that?
Yeah, and then I influenced a lot of other people just because seeing it embodied like that. Yeah, like I think she has no idea. You know, I think she's pretty clueless. But I think now that I had this conversation, I'm gonna see what's up with her.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
pretty awesome. I mean, like, if she has no idea now, it's like she gave without even knowing. Like
yeah.
that is quite the reproduction, like on an
The,
energetic level.
the master has given up helping. Thus, he's people's greatest help.
Right.
Yeah, she didn't. She had
Shit,
no
huh?
intention. She had no intention of changing me, or changing him, or nothing like that. Yeah.
And that in itself is something that causes, like, well, not causes, but there's so much peace in that, in like not wanting to change somebody, because like, all right, so like, say it's hard, it's like it's harder when you're like dating somebody and it's like you want to see them like change. And so, but giving up that desire to like change somebody is so peaceful. It seems like it's harder when they're closer to you. And like when it's a stranger, it's like, all right. That's like kind of a bit more far fetched.
Yeah, I mean, maybe by 66, she was at a place where she was like, "Oh man, I've already beat that door down, and there's nothing on the other side of trying to change people."
Yeah. I feel like, hmm. So like for example, in the raw vegan community, I found that the ones that I resonated with most were the ones that were older, like in their 40s and 50s, because they had like this peace and calmness about them where like they were in this lifestyle for a really long time, or they've been in it for a really long time. And it's just like,
It's
I
just
don't
yeah,
know.
it's
I'm
just
just realizing now that it's not the like their diet or anything like that that actually inspires me. It's just the fact that they're so peaceful.
That's it. That's it. You know what I mean? You just want a piece of that. You know what I mean? You just like
Yeah.
what are you doing over there? Like, you know what I mean? I just need to know, like, what is the formula for this?
Do you
That was the
feel
most
like,
that was the most attractive thing to me. Like, as
yeah,
far as like the lifestyle attracted me.
do you feel like, let's see, like a lot of people, and I know that I've been in this place myself, like looking at somebody, especially for girls, like looking at somebody that has like a slim figure, or like a guy looking at like another man, especially on social media, that's like in shape and stuff like that. It looks to them that that person lives a peaceful life. And maybe it's because they're accepted, or they assume that having that body like will bring that along. And it's
Yeah.
interesting though, because I feel like you can work from the outside in and force yourself, your body to look a certain way and like look aesthetic and stuff like that, but you won't actually reach that level of peace. It'll actually be a lot of resistance.
Yeah. A lot of resistance from the inside out, because you're doing it mechanically. It's not organic.
So like this was something that was really crazy for me. So like when I first started breathing, like when I first started doing breath work, my mind had these ideas of like what it was going to look like what breath work was going to bring for me, which is, man, just kind of like a projection or so, just some like crazy idea that my mind was like, yeah, this is what this is going to look like. And it's so funny. So like, for example, when I started breathing, doing breath work, I was like, all right, it's going to look like me losing weight. It's going to look like my diet going in this direction and stuff like that. And then the breath was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Before any of that happens, you're here. Like the breath brings you back to where you actually are, like not where you want to be, not where you think that you're going. It brings you right back to where you are.
Now,
And
now
it
with
was like,
now with saying that, think about it when you get to the point in your life where you're like, you really are where you thought you projected to be, and you want to go back, or you want to do something that you think, you know what I mean? Like for me right now, where it's like, man, like, should I go and hurl myself into society and leave this sagely position and
mm-hmm.
go down, and live in a city where the breath is not going to be coming through the same. So it's like it's like at this place where I'm like, oh man, like I'm kind of locked out of that experience in some ways. I feel that's how I
Oh,
feel sometimes. I'm like,
absolutely. Because now that you've gotten to the place that you are now, like anything after that, I mean, you'd be like tricking yourself. Like there's no actually going back.
yeah, that's it's just like trying to do the same thing a different way, because you'll never be able to do it the way, it will never have the same innocence to it like it did the other times before I had got the breath so cemented in my life. Like I
Right.
not to say like that's the thing. Like I've had very destructive cycles, and cycles of like poisoning myself and still maintain consistent breath work. Don't get me wrong. It's just that it really isn't a cumulative effect of like constantly experiencing that, where you're like, constantly detoxing the retox and going through the breath work, and then like pretty much like breathing off of headaches, and
Right.
like dealing with the fungus expansion and contraction, and then feeling that in your own brain, like
So
feeling the candida in your brain.
so that's I mean, all right. So like say you're practicing breath work. Let's just say it's 1 hour a day. Like for you it's more, but let's just say that somebody is practicing breath work for an hour a day. And like especially when they first start. So obviously that first hour or like as they continue practicing, that's going to like ripple over into every other breath that they have throughout the day. Like say when they're doing that hour of breath work, it's on a timer, right? And then
Okay.
when they finish that hour, like the rest of their day is different. Every breath after that is different and like experienced differently because of like the ripple effect of that breath work session. So like the more that you do breath work sessions, the more that the ripple effect changes the rest of your life. It's not like, because that's where like the rest of your life happens, like in the matrix, like in the 3D, like outside when your eyes are open, like that's where your experience changes.
Like, what you mean exactly? Like you mean like the consistent regimen brings you to a point of like just seeing the contrast in the outside world, or what? Like, is it just
Like the practice actually brings you to an emotional place where the rest of your breaths throughout the day are more conscious. So like say when you first start,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
might
that's
do
for
an hour
sure.
of breath work, and then when it stops, like you kind of go back to like these unconscious thoughts and stuff like that, and it's more of a drastic difference. But then like say as you practice breath work more and more and more, like you have for years and years, do you feel like your breathwork sessions aren't as, they don't create so much of a contrast between like when you're doing an actual session versus like the rest of your day, where you're
Uh,
not like, where the rest of your breaths are then more at a level of uh more of a level of consciousness where it's like basically like doing a breathwork session all the time, if that makes sense.
yeah, like more of my unconscious breaths are proper technique.
Right.
That's just, I guess that's what we're saying here.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like it's just more like I find myself, my body just doing it on its own, and then like I feel the body doing it, and then with that breath comes more presence. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like, oh shit, I was not present there for a second, and then I start kind of like reeling myself back in.
Yeah.
And yeah, for sure.
So that's basically what I mean. Like if I could phrase that differently, like say when you're doing a breathwork session and you're purposefully making your breath conscious, then like that ripples out to like when you're outside of that breathwork session, then more of your breaths are conscious outside of that, which is more presence. Do you feel like do you feel like that would make sense for most people, like something to expect?
You blacked out on my end for like the last 20 seconds. So I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Um, do you feel like that would be something that people could expect, like when they first start doing breath work, that they might have all that presence during the breath work session, and then when they're,
Dissipation,
what was that?
like dissipation,
Yeah. But then like as you keep
or just like,
practicing, then it won't really, it'll just to expect more consciousness throughout your day as you practice, like more present.
yeah. I mean, and then I just feel like I got to a point where it was like, yo, I cannot wait to do this breath session right now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like before, it was almost like, oh, I got to do this, man. Like I got to do this breath session, almost like out of guilt. Like if I don't do this breath session, then it could just like ripple my whole day. But now it's like I wake up and I'm like, yeah, I get a chance to do another breath session. Like it's almost like that.
What do you think? What do you think switched? What made the difference? Whereas, like before you were dreading it and now you're like looking forward to it. What?
It's not necessarily I was dreading it, because the results of the breath session were always great. You know what I mean? It's always a
Right.
great feeling. It's always a great feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that like I just feel like it's shifted for me. Like once I reached like different periods where I was going from, I don't know, 3 to 6 hours of breath sessions a day, when I was really like, this is the only thing I want to focus on. Like going from that to like only an hour a day, like going, switching, like retrograding back to that kind of just made me be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It was almost like the same way, when you change your diet and you like regress in your diet and you're like, well, all right, well, never again. I'll never eat that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's kind of like the same thing, like where I was like, oh man, like I really just want to get back to this breath real quick. Like, cause it just felt, it just had it just, as far as the priority, it just shifted for me, because nothing could match it. No drugs was doing it for me. Like no chemical could do it for me no more. Like, cause I don't know, I did all the chemicals in a lot of sense. I did everything, and then they just all kind of just really stopped having any effect. So then it was like the only thing that could really like scratch that itch was the breath, and then it just got to a point where it's just like, yeah, like this is what I'm doing now. Like it's not even a question anymore. Like, should I start my day with a breath session and then do this, that, and the third? It's like, it's no question. Like, it's like that is the only option. It's my whole body wants to do it, and I really feel like that's kind of how you should do it in a sense. Like, I don't plan on like having a breath session when I wake up. I really do try to see how far I can go now. I'm like, man, how many hours can I start my day and maybe just start reading the I Ching or whatever, like, and like I just see how far I can go, and I'll be like, now my whole body really wants to do it. You know what I mean? Because at different points I was like, kind of like, man, like I'm kind of forcing myself, like drilling myself into doing this,
Right.
and then once I like really like kind of tapered off, and I was like, all right, well then I'll give way and I'll see how these other things feel and see if I want to do other things. I always ended up wanting to do the breath anyway. Like I'm like, well, maybe I'll wake up and then walk the dogs first, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? And then so it was kind of like I tried all those things, you know what I mean? And sometimes I still will do it if I wake up and I don't, and that's not, my whole being doesn't want to do that yet. And because I feel like if I make it routine, then it kind of does become like a drug, where it's like, wake and bake or whatever people do,
Right.
I don't know, beer 30, whatever people do, like, it was kind of like the same thing. Like I was like, all right, I wake up, I get my hour of escape as soon as I start in the day. But once it became like, all right, I'm a really just allow my whole body to get to the point where it's like, okay, all right, this is what I want to do. It really changed it for me.
What do you think that some of your biggest emotional releases have been through breath work? Like maybe emotional releases or like generational traumas that were healed or something like that.
I think I just like it gave me different times to appreciate what was given to me and what was taken from me, and also the things that I had done to myself and others, which is to myself. So it really gave me moments to reflect on those deeds or misdeeds, injustices, and really have to. At one point, deep into the process, um, the liver. If you look at the TCM organ clock, the liver is at night. It's like, what is it, like 12 to 2 or something like that. Honestly, I probably should know that more.
But it's funny. That's how it is. Like with the organs thing. Like I know it, but not until I find myself doing a breath session during that time do I really really know it. And I'm like, oh, it's right. I'm working on this organ right now, and this organ is breathing more. So like I
Yeah.
had a I had a period where I could not sleep between like 12 and 2. Like life would not let me sleep. Like because that's how I was for the longest time. I would go to sleep around 11, wake up at 3, and then I do a breath session around somewhere between like 3:30 and 4,
Hmm.
4:30. So and that was kind of like my routine. And then I hit a point where like life just organized itself in a way to where I could not sleep from 12 to 2. And I had to do breath sessions. And I couldn't do any like quick breaths. It was all like, and all music just sounded like noise. And so I had to just be in silence, in darkness at this time of the night, doing slow breaths rhythmically. Uh, Either I would do them laying down because I was trying to go to sleep. I was trying to force myself to sleep. I'd do them laying down, and then I would get so much presence from the breath after 20 minutes of doing it laying down that I was like, ah, fuck it, I'll sit up and do it. So then
Hmm.
I'll do it. I'll do it for an hour and a half or an hour and 40 minutes sitting up, and then like after like 3 or 4 nights of that, everything started to bubble up out of my liver as far as like the experiences that were
And the liver
leading
is anger, right?
and like the the times that I behaved from that place, and
Mhm.
what the things that were created, the injustices and the disrespect of life that I had engaged in out of anger, like all of that came to the surface, and like it just was it was one of the it was great, but it was really like intense. You know what I mean? Like it was.
Yeah.
You know I cried myself to sleep probably for like a week because I couldn't like it got to a point where it was like I couldn't sleep, so I had to do the breath sessions, and then like that would make it would bring me back to those moments so vividly that like I would just immediately break down, and then I couldn't breathe because I would be crying. So then like I had to like wake up the next day, go to sleep, cry myself to sleep, wake up the next day, go through the whole process, and then midnight come around and the same thing continually happen. And then it'd be like the next event that I didn't process. Or I would revisit things and then it was like, okay, I fully digested this. This is what I did. I'm truly apologetic, sincerely apologetic about this. Like, and again, it was kind of like the universe, like, you know how it is, like the universe knows what you know. So like when you're not really sorry and you say sorry, the universe knows. So it's like,
Right.
there's no separation. So it's like when I was genuinely and sincerely apologetic about what I had brought into the world or allowed into the world or aligned with, whatever, what have you. When I was really apologetic about that, engaging in that behavior, that's when I could feel it in my spine, the release, like all of that release, like from the base of my spine up, it felt like a reception from me to me or from me to however you want to look at it, just no separation. It just felt like the apology was beginning to be accepted. It wasn't like all the way accepted. It's kind of like, you cheat on your girlfriend and you might be sorry and you say sorry, but it's not really accepted until it's accepted. And
Right.
that's kind of
Well,
the way it was.
so I mean, a true apology feels like giving, and like when you give, you receive. So like if it's not a true apology, then it doesn't really feel like giving. That's why probably like when you felt that release in your spine, it was like you were giving a true apology like to the universe, like it was going out in space.
It was literally like getting like whooped. It was like literally like getting beat emotionally. Like that's how I felt. I was just like, please to make it stop. Like my brain, it was so vivid in my head, and I was so in that place. Like even though I was in my room doing that in the middle of the night, dark,
Right.
I was there, but I was really my presence was really in that place where I had behaved those ways. So it was almost
Right.
like I was pretty much like, please make it stop. Please make it stop. And life was like, not until you fully accept it, not until you fully accepted what you've done. You know what I mean? And really witnessed it, bear witness to what you've done. And
Wow.
yeah, that's what it felt like. It felt like I was literally being like, it's like lashings. It was pretty much like, you see what you did? You see what you did? Like that's how I felt. Like, and
it definitely it humbled me for the rest of my life. And every time I can feel myself about to behave from that place, it's almost like a block. Like, nope, can't. I don't want to get beat again. It's kind of how it feels. Like, no, no, it's okay. Like, nothing's worth that. That's how it always feels.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that kind of brings up the point too, where like you can do something and like think that you're hiding it from people. You might be able to hide it from everybody outside of you, like in the physical world, but like you can't actually energetically hide something. Like there's always an elephant in the room.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that. It's like that thing. Like, you know, you never really get it. I feel like certain sayings you don't really get until you experience. Like, you
Yeah.
know, in the movies, like when they be like, "How do you sleep at night?" And I was like, "Yo, mad people really are living with things that they can't sleep with, so that they need to eat food and do these substances to force themselves to sleep, to force the lethargy on, so that they can sleep at night, because they really cannot live with themselves and they can't sleep with themselves. So it's like they gotta like push
Yeah,
themselves out of their body."
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's like,
So that
yeah,
kind of makes sense where like kids can fall asleep pretty fast. I've always been so jealous of people that could just like knock out super fast.
yeah, like, yo, it's like certain things make sense, like certain sayings that I was exposed to, like they were saying like guilty feet can't dance, and
Ooh.
you know what I mean, you like all types of shit like that, like, you know what I mean, like like, you know, those types of things. I'd be like, wow, I get it now, like, you know, you like
Holy
life.
shit, guilty feet can't dance?
Yeah, I
That's
feel like that.
crazy.
I feel like that's such a good one.
That's a good
You know?
one.
Yeah, like I feel like it's so true though. Like you really can't like your body is not even in that place of feeling free enough to do that. Like it feels like the guilt is there. It hasn't you haven't greeted the guilt with the apology, with the
Well, what
sincere
that
apology.
actually makes me think of is like guilt and also like sexual guilt because like dancing is a sexual thing. I mean, most of the time. Like,
Yeah,
not always.
I think everything in the physical world got its ties to sexuality for sure.
So, yeah. Damn. That's a good phrase.
Yeah, man, guilty feet can't dance, and it's like you.
I think you muted me. I'm not sure.
Like it's just that's the, you know, people, you got a bunch of other people that will enable you
Mhm.
into just being like to pretty much just being a walking corpse, you know what I mean, never really getting to sleep, never really getting that rest.
Yeah.
And that's how people, I feel like, decay, you know, a lot, you know what I mean, because they never really check in like that. They can never really truly relax without some type of substance putting them down.
Right. And so do you think that comes down to like what people are putting in their body because like they're not in homeostasis.
Yeah, the body's just struggling, like the body's trying to relax, you know what I mean, but like if you like say if you like, I don't know, if you smoked during the day, now you forcing the body into the parasympathetic nervous system when it should be in the sympathetic nervous system. So now when you get to the point at the end of the day where you need to sleep, you've already burned up the you know, the melatonin and everything's all been burned up because you forced it on. So
Mhm.
now, you know, it's like you can't. So now you're like even more dependent. So now it's like, okay, now I need to smoke again to go to sleep. And then it just creates more endocrine hormonal imbalance. And it's just like, it just never gets undone, you know, because people just
You're basically
continually,
creating more healing for yourself that needs to be done. Like you might
yeah,
get,
just more debt.
the immediate effect, but it's not.
Yeah, it's just like a huge breath debt. Like it's just like this debt, like we're like looming over you, where it's like, yeah, you need to get caught up on your breath so you can process all this stuff. And, you know, every time you smoke, it's just like, it's pretty much like taking out another loan. And you're just getting a huge debt, you know what I mean? Like, or every time you eat a steak or whatever the fuck it is, it's like, you could do this breath session right now and get credit, or you could engage in things of the earth and go further into debt, you know? And it's just like, it's crazy, man. Like, a lot of people just choose the latter. They don't
That's
really choose
really
the former.
crazy. Like, debt really is a feeling. I mean, you can have like financial debt, but like when you have debt as a feeling, that's like really heavy.
Yeah. You know, and certain things, they really don't match up, you know what I mean? Like, if you feel like indebted to your, you know, somebody you love or whatever, it's indebted to the universe, it's different than being like owing money, you know, owing student loans. You know what I mean? Like that kind of debt, like it doesn't even feel real when you like put it on the scale with like you hurt somebody or you robbed yourself of an opportunity. You know what I mean? Like those debts don't even fit. Those debts really trump the money thing. And it kind of, like you said, it's just a feeling. You know what I mean? People are such an animal consciousness though that they really do have that feeling of debt for student loans and for certain things, like because of the fear. Like, if I don't do this, then I won't be shit for one, or I won't be able to get a house. You know, but like somebody else might have student loans and be like, well, maybe I can't get a mortgage if I default on this, but I could buy
Yeah.
land.
Okay, so are you saying that like debt is fear? And
Well, I'm saying, like,
so
yeah, it's kind of
if
like,
you're in breath debt, then like you're basically, it's because you're living in fear.
yeah, for sure. And then it creates all the other debts when you're in breath debt.
Wow. So that kind of brings up, okay, so like if somebody's living in fear, do you feel like that influences them to start doing things to like get them out of, rather than not doing, they start like forcing?
Yeah, because they're already not breathing. They're already in sympathetic nervous system more than they should be. So they're not breathing enough, like in a way that's like in accord with the way they need to handle things. Like, if you need to calmly change your life or whatever, if you've been panting, breathing all day, then you know what I mean. Like, it's like this. You're not matching the scenario. So you're gonna run around chasing things and panic and create needs for things and say like, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. When if you just breathe, get back to your center, then you can really see through things, and you can see beyond things, and you can see beyond right now, and like, you know, wherever your animal body is, and see like, you know what, man, if I handle it this way, in a more relaxed way, a more composed way, then I don't even need to care about this, that, and the third. If I just do it this way, and yeah.
So like how much of that do you feel like kind of goes along with faith? Because if you have a faith that the universe is, or you know, God, the universe is, it always delivers, it always gives you everything that you need. I mean, like if you just sit still, if you literally just sit still, like you will be given everything that you need, like it will be given to you for free.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even so much like it's not even so much that it's given. The vision is given. You know, it's not that
Yeah.
the material or the, you know, the all the things are given. It's like, oh, you need to have the vision. You know, like, if you don't have the vision for being raw vegan or whatever you want to be, if you can't see that in your daily life, like how that is a possible way of life, and you can't see like the way that you would go about doing it, then it's not gonna happen. You know what I mean? If you can't see yourself like enjoying whatever it is, you know, fruits and vegetables or whatever, like if you can't see, like, you know, if you can't map that out, if you don't get that, if you don't have that internal vision of, okay, if I change my diet this way and I start breathing like this, then I can start to see like how, you know, based on how I'm feeling right now, in the trajectory of this feeling and the practices that I'll get to this point, you know, if I just keep going. And like, you just have to have the vision, or there's no way you'll ever meet whatever it is you think that you want. Like, you need to have the vision. Like, you really need to see it, you know, like
Right.
you need, so like, if you sit still and you breathe and you really get on your conscious breath, you're not going to have the shit given to you, but what you will have given is the route. You know what I mean? The map.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. It's like you'll be given I mean, that's the law of attraction right there. You're given the visualization and then like it just manifests after that. But it's not like,
Well, you got to take the steps, and like, in order to take the steps, you got to do what brought you the vision.
so going along that path though, do you feel like the steps like you meet less resistance when you're taking those steps?
Yeah, like it's just staying in accord with, like, so if the breath is giving you your vision and your map and your roadmap out of the mire, then you got to continually respect the breath and respect that process so that you can take the next step. And so, you know what I mean? Like, it's like they say, like on the Tao Te Ching, it's like, he who stands on tiptoe doesn't see far. It's like, you just
Right.
gotta do your, you know what I mean? Do right now. Do the breath session right now. Take the steps that you need to take. See through your day, and then once you get to different points in a larger cycle, you'll see further than than maybe 5 years or 10 years. But if you just look through the steps of today, if you wake up, do your breath session early before you put anything in your body. You do your breath session, and it's the same thing. I always refer to the Tao Te Ching because it's saying like it was saying like the greatest artist allows his intuition to take him wherever he wants. It's kind of the same. It's kind of the same thing as like where you allow your vision to do its thing, in a sense. Like, it's not daydreaming. It's once you've controlled that breath to where it's 1 or less per minute, 2 or less per minute, then whatever you're being shown, whatever you're visually seeing in that state, that applies to your life so significantly, so intimately, that it's what you need to either work on or undo, whatever it is. Like, that is the vision that you need to be seeing from that. Because like, if you're in a sympathetic nervous system and you're panicking, the visuals that you're going to be seeing, if you have any visuals at that point, if you're not like completely locked in auditory thought, if you have any visuals, they're all going to be negative. You know, a lot of people, they have visuals of negative things happening because their breath pattern, that's what it elicits. It's going to bring about those visuals. So like, once you get back to a calm breath, you can trust that more, because it's a vision that's more in alignment with your nature, which is the calmness, which is the peace. You know what I mean? Like, that's more in alignment with your nature. So whatever visual comes from that state, even if it's like I was saying, all the terrible things that I had done and experienced in my life, when I was in that state of 1 or less breaths per minute, that's what I needed to digest fully so that I could get to the next state. Like, you can't get ahead of yourself, and you kind of just got to really take it from breath to breath and enjoy this right now as much as you can, and take advantage of being able to breathe fully right now, so that you can get this instruction to get through the next 6 hours of your day. And then when you get there, maybe you do a breath session, maybe not. I don't know, next morning, you do a breath session, you digest all of those past hours and your dreams, you start digesting that more because you did the breath session early. And then it's like, it's a constant roadmap being carved out, and you're living life before you get there, but you're also living in right now because you're just being present in whatever comes right now. And it's just, it's funny how you can live in past, present, and future all at the same time in that.
That raises something for me. Like, I know every time that I'm conscious, like when I'm doing breath work, and like, say, the most comes to me always when I'm holding at the top or the bottom of a breath. So like the most
Insight?
the most insight, yeah. Like a thought will come to me that just like really, really resonates. Or like it'll be something that like you said, is something that like I really needed to work on. And it just comes like in that moment of silence that I don't know, just like all of it just makes sense. And so like I had said earlier, okay, so all right, before I say that, so like when I'm holding like say at the top of a breath and like a thought comes to me that might be like too far in the future or like feels more forced or something like that, I can feel it where like my heart rate will rise. But then if I say to myself like, oh, like I don't need to worry about that right now, or like I'll just take it one step at a time, or something like that, like my heart rate will lower, and I'll come back down to like a more peaceful state. And it's funny how I can feel that at the top of a breath, like I can feel my heart rate raise just by thoughts that feel
Yeah.
like out of alignment or like feel just way too far in the future.
Yeah, no, that's it, man. I mean, I can think of past athletic experiences and then go right back to that place. My palms get sweaty, all that.
Mhm. Yeah.
It really
So
does take you right back to that place. It takes you, your nervous system right back to that place.
that's crazy. And and like then when you feel that and you're like, oh, whoa, like I know like when I feel that I'm like, whoa, like all right, that's not a thought that I need to be like. I kind of meet it with some peace so that I'm like, okay, like I don't really, that doesn't serve me right now, type thing. Like I don't need to feel that. I don't need to think about that right now.
Yeah, it's I guess it's more so just like whatever matches, like whatever really matters. Like, because a lot of the times you're living in like if that's what the breath does. It allows you to live fully in your body, and the more that you get into the breath, then the more you live in fully in the body. So then, you're really like doing that inventory and really getting down to the bottom of why you are times people are they're lost in the thought of things. A lot of people are. They'll be like, you ask somebody how they feel, and they'll start telling you what they're thinking, and it's like, yeah, nah, man. It's like, how does this make you feel though? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
people,
so
yeah,
that's major. So like I noticed that I learned that it's so funny. I feel like everybody learns things through different things. And so for me, I learned that through food. And so like and that's what breath work taught me was like, okay, I see how you think about food. I see your thoughts about food, but like if I detach my emotions from if I detach my emotions and I detach what I think about the food and I just focus on like how it makes me feel in my body, like physically, like physical feelings and like emotional feelings are kind of, I don't know, there is kind of a difference. It's like, all right, like say if I eat some cooked food or something like that, I feel I feel a bit more sluggish. I feel a bit more heavy. I feel a bit slower. But like that doesn't have to be associated with I feel guilty or I feel mad at myself or I feel, you know what I mean? It doesn't
yeah,
necessarily have to go hand in hand.
yeah. No, I mean, there's just been so many times though where I've caught myself, lost in the concept of something like I think this is going to be what's good and make me feel good, but I'm just neglecting how my body feels in this present moment. And it's like if it doesn't feel good now, and I'm just thinking about it, you know what I'm saying? Like if my
Yeah.
body doesn't feel good, my body doesn't feel good while I'm fathoming this concept, then how is it going to feel good once I am living that concept? You know,
Mhm.
like if I think about eating, I don't know, something that is not necessarily good for my body, or being with somebody that's not necessarily good for my growth, and I take the inventory of my body, and it doesn't resonate with that. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel like the whole being wants to do it. Then once I arrive at it physically, it's going to be such a letdown, such an underwhelming experience, because it was already underwhelming when I was just thinking about it. Because that, I feel like that's really what allowed me to take the strides in my diet. Because I've had things enough times, vegan, raw vegan, cooked vegan, whatever. I've had them enough times to where if I think about it, I can feel how it would feel to digest that right now. Like, if I eat that, then I'm gonna have to spend this many hours feeling like this and bloated in this way. My liver is gonna
Right.
feel like this, and I'm gonna feel it in my ascending colon like this for this. So I kind of go through the whole process of feeling it, and I'm like, man, like I really just did that. I don't have to physically do it now. Like it was not even satisfying in concept, in my thought. So how can it be how can it be satisfying actually doing it? So I feel like that's really what made it easier for me to discern what I should be eating or not eating in the process of becoming, liquid in the liquid life, because it was just so easy for me to say, like, once I got my body cleaned out like that, I was like, man, so if I introduce this food, how would it feel right now? And then my body would give off like pretty much the response, like, the same way, like you said, like if you think about something that's, makes you anxious, then your body starts responding that way. It
Yeah.
was the same. It was the same thing with the food. I'm like, man, if I ate that right now, I would get hot, or I would feel like this, and then I would start, thinking like this, and I know this is where it would take me, because I've done it so many times that it don't even serve me no more. So it's like I can kind of skip all of it just by thinking about it.
So like how often do you think people are their emotions are actually based off of a reaction of not being in homeostasis in their body?
Oh, 99.8 or something like that. I think 99 is a high number, because people just not in full alignment. It's just not, they're not fully, they're not in their body and in tune with it and in line with it, like to where they can really feel like, every crevice of it, to where, this idea can even be fully expressed in their mind. Like if you're not fully inhabiting your body,
Mhm.
and then it's easier to think about cheese pizza and eating it, because you're not fully there anyway. So you're not fully inhabiting your liver and gallbladder and your pancreas and your spleen and all that. You're not fully there in your descending colon and your ascending colon. Like, you're not fully there. So it's not, you don't really feel like the repercussions of what would happen there, because you're not present in those areas of your body. So it's when you're in that concept of indulging like that,
Mhm.
it's kind of easier for you to do it, because there's no signal there. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
if I think of something that's not good, like if I think about getting high, then my lungs, they're clean. You know what I mean? So they'd be like, the response is like, nah, you don't want to feel like this though. Like the lungs almost pretty much just send me like the movie that I've seen so many times. Like, remember how you felt? This is how you're gonna feel. You're gonna be short, shallow breath. You're gonna be dry. You're gonna, all of that memory. Since I did those things, like I said, I had destructive cycles, even with the breath sessions consistently in my life. So that when I did them things, when the breath was still consistently in my life, and I was eating cooked food, or eating raw food, or smoking weed, or vaping weed, or whatever, like my body was still clean enough to the point I had enough presence in it to where I fully experienced it, to where now when I go to think about doing those things, I can just go back to that memory, and it's like, oh yeah, this is exactly how I'm gonna feel. I can't even lie to myself. This is what it's gonna do. This is the way I'm gonna feel, and there's no like mystery in it in a lot of ways. Like
So
people
do you
kind of have.
feel like in order to fully experience something, there kind of has to be a level of like being neutral about it? Like if you're judging yourself for doing something, or if you feel guilty about doing something, like this goes for anything. Like in order like you can't have that along with also fully experiencing it, because to fully experience it you have to be present, and like if you're not present during that experience and you're like guilty or judging yourself or angry or something like that, then you're not really there.
Exactly. Exactly. Like you have to just go through it. You have to be just observant. That's what people, when people say, how do I quit this? And I'll just pay attention. Just pay attention. Don't look at it like you're the one doing it, kind of just do it from a detached perspective. Look at it like everything I'm doing right now, I just need to pay attention to it. And then
Yeah.
then you can change it.
So that's really interesting. I mean, like from a certain perspective, like if somebody, that's really funny that you said that. If somebody says, how can I quit something? I mean, because quitting something means that you're doing it right now. But like, I feel like when you're in alignment, the stopping of that is kind of natural to the point where you didn't even know that you stopped doing it. Like there wasn't really a point that you quit.
The void has been filled another way, a more intelligent way, more complimentary way, to
Yeah,
where,
because like
yeah,
if you quit, then it's like there is still kind of like this hole that's like that hasn't been filled yet, and so there's kind of like this resistance about it. But like say if it's a gradual process to the point where like you can't even really label it as quitting because it wasn't really a conscious effort to quit, then
yeah,
like it's just it is like one thing being emptied and one thing being filled at the same time.
yeah. It's like I don't know if you've seen my post yesterday. I said, um, I was like, fear is conscious destruction, and I was saying love is unconscious destruction via conscious creation. You know what I mean, or alignment. So
Hmm.
it's like, so by aligning with love, or the path of least internal resistance, then you invariably destroy, but in an unconscious way. You destroy who you were in an unconscious way, to the point where you don't even remember in a lot of ways, like why you did those things. Like, man, I can't believe I smoked weed like that. I can't believe you know what I mean? Like, I can't believe that I was so caught up in this, that, and the third, to where I indulged this way and subjecting my body and my being to these things. Because
But
if
also,
you're
like, do you feel like you have compassion for yourself? Like, it does make sense that you did do that, like that type of thing. Cause, like,
yeah, the
you know
math
what I
makes
mean?
sense. The math of it all makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, if you're busy doing things you love, it just automatically destroys all the things that were. There's no room for the things that of fear.
Right.
You know, those things just gradually just get pushed out. They get brought to the surface though,
Yeah.
and in that process, a lot of people try to suppress it because they don't want it to surface.
Hmm. So to change topics for a second, um, I had this thought. I mean, so like you're up on a mountain and the only like living things that you're really around are your dogs. And
I mean, besides the wildlife,
right. But
I
I
picked
mean
up a
like
frog today. I picked up a frog today, and I poked the salamander the other day. That shit didn't even move. I was like, yo, this you just gonna chill in the trail like that? But yeah, it's a lot of animals out here too, though. Yeah.
yeah. But like being around your dogs where there's like an emotional connection, like that type of thing. And like you can observe that you're observing them a lot more. Um, how can I ask? Like, I don't know. Dogs, they're kind of more in tune with nature. I mean, and they're more in tune with the Tao like inevitably. Like it's just not on purpose. They kind of, or wild animals. I mean, we all are. We're all following the Tao, like no matter what, right?
Yeah.
But like, what's it like observing that in an animal? Like, how do you
Yeah,
see it in the dogs?
they are dope teachers. You know what I mean? They are definitely dope teachers. Come on, boy.
Yeah.
Come on, boy. Yeah, they really are good teachers because like they don't they're not not really opinionated. I mean, in some ways, dogs kind of they get spoiled by us and they do kind of develop opinions and preferences,
Right.
but they're not really opinionated. They kind of just respond to the moment accordingly, and that's like I feel like that's the best thing about them. They really do just they immerse themselves in the moment and they respond to it as they should. They don't really like, oh, maybe if I respond this way, I'll look at myself this way, or other people will look at me this way, and it's not like that. It's almost like, look, I ain't got no look. I'm doing what makes sense right now.
Right. That is like that's a really cool thing to learn from a dog.
Yeah, no,
Something
they're
that I
they're,
noticed
they're
with
dope.
mine is like they're always, so I don't know where I read this, but it was like it's about vision and how our eyes are like some really high percentage, like 70 or 90% of like our brain activity is our visual perception.
Like the influence of our brain activity is based on like what we're visually seeing.
Yeah, so like if you close your eyes, you're automatically like that much less stimulated.
Yeah.
So like I noticed with my dogs, like they have their eyes shut a lot of times. Like they're taking a lot of little cat naps, just like
Yeah.
getting back in touch with like the darkness
Constantly.
constantly.
I
So
mean,
it's like they're really
they
kind of constantly in meditation, and then like anything that they act outside of that is just out of pure alignment with, like you said, like with the moment.
yeah, what the moment demands. They become the moment basically. Like
Yeah.
as we should.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you like picked up on that, like, being
Yeah, like
around.
they're not doing drugs really. I don't know no drug dogs that just do consciously doing no drugs. So like they're not like forcing themselves to sleep. They just pretty much like enjoy their body fully. They're like fully in their body, hardcore, 100%. And then they go and then from that state of presence they go to sleep and and they recharge and then they're like back at it. They're like fully enjoying the body again. And it's like they're never really like half asleep, half awake like a lot of humans.
So that, okay, this might be like a bit of a leap, but like what you just said kind of planted this little vision in my head of the rest of nature, like the rest of wild animals, and how like, say, all right, like hopefully you can follow me on this. Say an animal is being hunted, like a lion is hunting like whatever they eat. I don't know. Antelope, a
Gazelle.
gazelle, a gazelle. Okay, yeah. So the lion hunts the gazelle, has it by the neck. The gazelle, like physically in its body, because it's fully in its body, it might have like the physical survival instincts, but like it's so interesting when you watch like a documentary or something like that and you like look into the animal's eye that just got caught. It kind of has like this moment of acceptance where it's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
And there's no like fear of death. Like there's fear of like a physical death, like the physical survival, but there's no like mental fear behind it because there's no like concepts of death.
Yeah, it's like they're just in tune, like I guess like on the Lion King shit, like, you know, the gazelle eats the grass or the zebra eats the grass and then the lion eats the gazelle and then the lion dies and then the grass eats the lion and then, you know what I mean? It's just like being immersed in that whole cycle and being fully present in it.
So
Um,
do you feel like the only difference between us and that is like the ideas that we have about death.
Yeah, the idea of death is definitely what keeps people slowly dying every day instead of just
Yeah.
living in the moment. The idea of death is really killing them more than actually anything else. It's kind of crazy, but then you see it too, though. Like when people die, or when people are in that process of dying, it's like the body is gonna like kind of panic and go into that survival mode and go into that, like, you know what I mean? It's like the animal part is gonna do its thing. You know what I mean?
Right, right, right.
You know, you might consciously be okay with the concept of death, like, and be like, I'm gonna meet my maker or whatever. But then the
Right.
body is pretty much gonna be like, well, fuck that. I'm just living. The body's like, I'm in this moment, okay? You know what I mean? Sure, this,
Yeah.
the breath or the soul, the spirit, whatever, all that can go on and be in another place or be in nowhere. But the body is gonna be like, all right, this is what I'm in. You know what I mean? I'm gonna address this accordingly.
Yeah.
Because, like, you can see somebody that might be like living all their days of their life, really tough person, and then at the end of their life they might beg for their life because it's almost like the body is control. You know what I mean? It's like the body at that point. It's not that anything else that's in that moment. Almost like it's kind of like almost like the soul is already like vacating. Now the body is just the last thing to die, and it's kind of like, since it's the animal part and it doesn't, it sees separation. It's not like all encompassing like that. It's gonna behave accordingly. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it just is what it is. Like, the zebra is gonna run from the lion. You know what I mean? It's just
Right,
gonna
right, right.
it's gonna panic and go into that.
That's so interesting. Like the difference between us and that. Hmm.
Yeah, like at some level, I guess some humans do accept it. I feel like when you are taking your last breaths, there's some type of acceptance, one way or another. Like, it's I think it's pretty imminent, to where you're just like, yo, it ain't really nothing to do but take my last breaths here and feel what dying feels like, and then accept it. I think that if you have any moment to sit there with yourself and say, like, this is death, this is what physically dying feels like, I feel like that
So
there is definitely acceptance.
that's actually really interesting. So, um, one of like one of the most I had this one really kind of pivotal breath session where like I was holding my breath at the top. So I was like, I inhaled and I held, and I was just like, all right, I'm gonna hold this breath like as long as I can. And
Yeah,
aw.
yeah. I don't know. They playing. The one's biting his ear. He's overreacting.
So okay, so I'm holding my breath, right? And it's like my body, like my heart rate kind of raises as I'm like holding it longer and longer. Maybe in fear of death or something like that, like a physical reaction to like possibly we could die right now because there's no breath being like
Yeah.
no breath being breathed in right now. And I was like, I just kept holding it and holding it and holding it. And I was like, no, like I'm gonna get past this. And it was so interesting because all of a sudden, like my heart's beating, 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 and then like it went like flat. All of a sudden, I just like became super peaceful, and like my heart rate changed, and it
Did you feel
slowed.
that thud?
Yeah,
Yeah, that thud is the best. I
yeah.
don't know
And
what
all of a
you know what I mean.
sudden, like just the frequency changed. Like even what I heard, like the silence changed. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like if you do it outside, you hear that silence change. Like you hear the silence more outside if you're doing a breath session outside. But
Yeah,
yeah, that is like a total shifting of gears right there. Like manually changing like the way your body's processing.
that's pretty crazy.
Amazing, amazing beings. Amazing
Yeah, I
thing.
mean, like when that first happened to me, that was like it's almost like practicing death.
Hmm.
It's like, no, like I can there's gonna be something like on the other side of this. Like,
Yeah,
I'll
you
be fine.
practicing eternity.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you say that. Yeah. So it's funny to experience that like actually in your body. Like down to the heartbeats.
Yeah. I mean, it's an incredible feeling. You know what I mean? Like once you kind of like reach those points where you're like, man, death is it's not really bothering me right now, or that. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's like it's just a different feeling, right? Like because you're just like pretty much getting acquainted with it, dying before you die, and you're like, you know what? I'm okay with non-being if it were to come. You know, in a lot of ways.
So if our heart rates are like really high throughout the day, I mean, I've heard before, like, there's no difference between, like, if you're thinking something that feels threatening or if you're being threatened from the outside, like, a
Your body
predator,
just takes
something
it.
like that.
Yeah, yeah. That's why scary movies are scary.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like your thoughts can actually be threatening to your well being.
For sure. That's for sure. That is that's facts right there. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, it really is. It's like it's detrimental to your being to 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 think certain thoughts. Certain thoughts are really like detrimental. It's to your whole everything. I don't know any other way to put it. I guess, but yeah, like a thought really will create metabolic responses in your body that what do they call it? Metabolic stress responses. That's a thought can take you into that place. That's what the whole thing too, like being afraid or just being acquainted with a concept, constantly looping a concept of what if, something that could hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's, people worried about this, catching a disease or whatever it is, like that kind of fear really does make your whole body respond to the thought.
And so, like, what that actually trickles down to in your physical body is like your heart rate rising and like just this reaction to fear.
Yeah. Yeah, just then fear is their phantom. You know what I mean? It's that it's basically the illusion of separation, that something else outside of you isn't you and can harm you. You know what I mean?
Do you
Uh,
feel like that is how, like, I remember seeing this, I don't know if it was a picture or a video or something like that, where, like, I don't know if it was a monk or something, but there's like this practice where people will stand like eye to eye with a cobra and they'll just like follow and like eye gaze with a cobra. And it's just
I've heard
because,
of it. Yeah, I've never done it. Hell no, I've never done it. But I've
yeah.
heard of it. Yeah.
But like, do you feel like that having that peace and like no separation between, do you think that that is why they can do that? Is because they feel like no separation between them and the cobra that could potentially kill them?
That's the only way to even deal with that. That's the only way. Like you have to really totally accept the moment. It's got to be like a total acceptance of the moment and like becoming the moment. So the moment, once you become the moment and once you're immersed in the moment and you filled all the space in it and you're really present in it,
then the moment behaves according to your behavior because you are the moment. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like we were saying, if a lion is chasing a zebra, when the zebra runs fast, the lion runs fast. If the zebra trots and runs away slowly, then the lion doesn't. It's like a delicate connection with the predator and prey.
Mhm. So like that just I don't know, it just really it made me think about how it feels like to do something when when you're like forcing yourself to do it because you feel like the end result of doing it is going to make you feel better versus like feeling good right now and then whatever you do after that you can kind of just become that, and it's not like you're not doing it for like the end result,
Yeah,
like
because
it's
there's
just
no
really out
and
of pure enjoyment.
yeah, like you just enjoy the process. You know what I mean? Because there is no end. So it's more. It's like the process is what you do it for. You know, you enjoy the processes of giving and receiving the whole process because they're not really separate. As you give, you're receiving at the same time, and as you receive, you're giving at the same time because your your acceptance of or your reception and your acceptance is a form of giving in a sense. You know, like if someone gives an apology and you accept it, that's you've given acceptance. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so this is just something that like I've realized within myself, and I was just wondering if you could add anything to it or something like that. So when when I shaved my head, it was this one that was like an experience in and of itself. But what I didn't realize is that like the growth back process was going to be like a whole different experience. And so it's just funny because what I've realized is like you can't force growth, and things will not grow faster than they will. It's just one step at a time. It's kind of like it's not drastic. It's just things just happen slowly, almost to the point of just being invisible. Like it should,
Pinky.
true changes are like invisible changes, if that makes sense. Like you say, the small changes all.
Yeah. No, I guess that's where your like you were saying, faith comes in
Yeah.
with that. You know, just
I mean, like another thing that I realized is it's kind of funny. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll allow, like, quote unquote, I'll allow my hair to grow out or to grow. But it's like this is kind of where the art of like effortless living kind of comes in, because am I really allowing anything, or am I just being present for the fact that it's happening or it's going to happen anyways? And I don't actually have any control over it. And it really is effortless. And like any efforts that I'm making or like that I think that I'm making are actually futile, and it's just all going to happen anyways.
yeah, it's kind of like trying is dying, and when you don't try, the things that you really want manifest themselves anyway. So it's like as soon as you give up trying, your truest will brings you the things you desired anyway.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a both, like where like accepting accepting the areas that you can't control, I guess, in the present moment allow you to take control over what you can, and then that allows you, that is control over everything in a sense.
Damn.
As it pertains to you, at least.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So like going back to when I hold my breath either at the top or at the bottom, and like when certain thoughts come that don't, where like I said it, I can feel like a change in my heart rate and something, stuff like that. And I'm like, that doesn't really resonate with me anymore. Like that doesn't really serve me and like the peace that I actually want to experience. I find that in those moments, I can change that thought or replace that thought with like a positive affirmation. And that's kind of like consciously changing your belief system. I don't know if you have anything to say on that.
Yeah, I think that it can help to soothe things with more so like from what I, well, as far as what's worked for me is it's just not knowing, like returning to that state, like in the Tao Te Ching it says like the master has healed herself of all knowing, thus she's truly whole. I feel like
Mhm.
when you don't know, then you can remain present, but the more that you know, the more you're like in the traumas, in the concepts, in the what ifs, and you're just not just being. So like when when you get caught up in the like what ifs and everything, it's just it's just easier to get lost in that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's easier to I guess panic and then actually make that manifest when like things are going wrong and you're just like, man, as long as I stay opinionless and don't know anything and just accept what's being shown in this moment and don't jump to conclusions, then you're kind of protected because you don't know anything, when you like when you start to create this idea of like, I know that this is going to happen or that's going to happen, then you already kind of jump into a defensive mode, and then you make the things manifest because you behave from a defensive mode.
So that kind of, I mean, that's how children act. Children they don't really know anything.
Yeah, just touch the stove.
Yeah, exactly. And that actually reminds me of like one of my favorite verses from the Tao, and it's like, hold on, let me find it. I think it's like what number? 23. Hold on.
Quiz me on it. What is the word?
I'm gonna find it for you. One sec. It's 20. So stop thinking and end your
Stop
problems.
thinking and end your problems. Yeah, yo,
Yeah,
it's true.
yeah. Where is it though? There's this. Hold on.
Because like as long as you're thinking, then the problem can exist. But if you're not thinking, then you're either addressing it or you're not being harmed. It's like
It's
either
like I alone
you're
am
suffering.
expressionless, like an infant before it can smile. And I feel like that line is like so much. It says so much.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, that's everything. I was thinking about that. I always, but I don't know. I think about they always run through my mind. But I always think about that one, man. Like that's the way you need to greet every moment. And then, like it says in the Tao Te, that's just the way you need to greet them. So then, like, and if you can stick, because there's a part of you that is always at peace. So if
Right.
you greet every moment like that, you can like have a grasp of that part of you that's always at peace, which is the true you. And
Right.
but then again in the Tao Te Ching it says like he doesn't think about his actions. They flow from the core of his being. So
Right.
like when you're not thinking and you're just greeting everything like the Tao is expressionless, like a baby before it's born, then like your behaviors are in accord with the moment. Again, like they are the moment. So you're observant of that. And it's not like any
Right.
interference of the conscious will, It
It's
is what
not,
it is.
yeah,
And
it's not like a reaction.
yeah, and even if it is, you can still live with yourself because it's just genuine. It's from the core. It's just what needed to be done. If you're in alignment like that and then something happens, what the ways you behave are gonna be in alignment. So
Right.
you can live with yourself, even if they are traumatic events. It won't. You might have your remorse or whatever. You might think about like things like, oh, I could have handled it this way or that way. But at some level, there's gonna be that sense of, I really, this is what I had to do. This is the thing that had to happen. There's no real blame in it because it is what happened. And I couldn't refrain from things happening these ways, and it just is what it is. And you know what I mean, you just
Right.
accept it.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of crazy. So like, I mean, I feel like a reference point with that for you was, or could have been, like when your cousin died. And I know I had somebody close to me die like in a just overnight, just a split second, like they were there and then they were gone, and it's like, holy shit, I had no control over this at all, like not even a little bit. And so I have to be like as gentle with myself as possible.
That's it. That's all you can do. It's like you
Like I
have to
can't blame
cry in that
myself for
moment.
this, I can't be guilty about this, like
Yeah.
I literally
No,
had
it's like
no control over this.
you have to do what you have to behave according to the way the things are. If you feel compelled to cry in that moment, you have to cry. What I mean? If you aren't compelled to cry, then you don't cry. But you just got to respect and honor the moment, really. And like, as long as you do that, then you can live in the moment. You can stay in the moment. If you didn't cry when you needed to, then you're gonna you're constantly basically crying on the inside. So
Well,
you'll
that's
never
the
yeah.
interesting part about, I feel like when a trauma happens, like something like that, like a life-changing moment, or when somebody dies, like a loved one dies or something like that, it brings like such a moment of, or moments of presence, where like life just shifts. Like all of a sudden life is not the same anymore. And it brings like such a moment of presence, and like depending on how not present you were before that happened, it hurts that much more, based
Yeah,
on like,
because then
maybe
you
how many
yeah.
expectations you had with that person or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because then you're just like, man, why was I not? I was just expecting him to be here for the rest of my days. Why was I not being present?
Yeah.
Just taking stuff for granted.
That's pretty crazy, like how a trauma can do that. It just brings you into that place of presence. Or I shouldn't say trauma, just like a
Real
life.
shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Real shit. It's
First
real.
it
It's not concept. It's not conceptual. It really happened.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I could think about my mom dying, and it might make me sad or whatever, or I'm not gonna cry because I thought about it. But it's not the same as it really happening. You know?
Right.
And like, and that's what I feel like those moments do. They're like, man, I was living in my head, and that was not reality. This is fucking reality.
Yeah.
I think that's what at least what I experienced. It was like, wow, all these moments of living in what I feel like just spoiled, like what I felt like should have been, and what could be, instead of just like accepting what is now, and really realizing how full my plate all in, as far as like the abundance of things. You know what I mean? It's just if I don't see abundance, I'm just not looking at it right. I'm not looking at it correctly.
I
if
feel
I
like
can't
the
sleep on
word
I'm,
should implies so much pride.
what's that?
The word should, when somebody says should,
Oh
it just
yeah, yeah,
implies
yeah.
so much pride.
It does. It's like, come on, man. Like really, like should though, like it's really that's why shoulda, coulda, woulda, man. And people really that's it. A lot of sayings are probably gonna stick for as long as people are speaking language
Yeah. Mhm.
because it is super prideful.
So I just had this thought, and I feel like you've posted about this before. So it's definitely not a new thought, but it's like pick your perfect day or like have your perfect day and then like base your or like work from that. But it's kind of like a practice. You got to like kind of practice having a good day. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. You gotta like kind of do all the things that you deem good and really see if that's what makes you happy and like if that's something that you can consistently do because it's gonna be a lot more simplicity in day-to-day living than what you can conceive of because like again if I really start thinking about all the things that I can possibly think about wanting, oh man, it's never ending. But
Mhm.
but as far as like practical things that you could do every day, that no matter what, like pretty much wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you can pretty much do these things in your daily day-to-day life. Those are the things that are pretty much gonna stick around. Everything else is gonna be like, I mean, because like you think about it, like if you're a kid or an adult even, you look at it like, okay, a kid will go to amusement park, adult will go to the club, strip club or something. I don't know, whatever the adults do. Or go to a baseball game. I don't know, whatever they like.
Mhm.
And so if you did it every day, you'd be like, man, this is really fucking mundane now. This is really boring. This is really like it
Right.
was nice going to the strip club once a year, twice a year, or whatever. And then now, you know, or I've been to every I've been to a basketball game every day. Like how you would make that so mundane. So it's like, what can you really do every day in a simple and easy way that you enjoy? Simple and easy. It doesn't have this glitter to it. Doesn't have this whole like pedestal around it. What can you do every day that is something that is endowed to you by life itself? You don't need to like, you know what I mean? You don't need to pay for it. Basically, a lot of things. Like you don't need to necessarily pay for going on a walk or doing breath work
Right.
or things that don't cost much if you do pay for them. Like I don't know, learning how to write in calligraphy or reading an ancient text
Mhm.
or whatever it is, like something that you can gradually do every day a little bit of and like enjoy getting better at it. Like those are the things that kind of make life livable. But if you're like basing your life on like these extravagant moments and like what should be, is you're gonna always be disappointed, and you're gonna be, again, the Tao Te Ching is like, you know, the master has no expectations, so he's never disappointed, so he doesn't grow old.
Right.
It's like if you have all these high expectations and all these plans, then you're gonna deal with uh, disappointment and what comes with that, aging.
Mhm. So like for me, I know that in my mind like I visualize what a perfect day would be like for me, and I kind of just like you were saying, I mean, just do as much of what I can that's already here in my present life. Like do as much of what I already have right now, and then like the rest will just come, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Like how could you expect to be happier or more if you're not happy with what you have now, or you can't make use of what you have now? There's no way you can take a larger load on.
Right.
You just
Yeah,
have you
because
have bigger mistakes.
Mhm.
Then you'll have bigger mistakes, bigger uh, losses, bigger you know disappointments. If you was to take if you're not happy with what you got now, and then somebody gave you more, you'll be more miserable and have more disappointment, more mistakes than you would if you just mastered this situation now and then gradually increase the load, just like lifting weights or something.
yeah, I mean like that. So that made me think of something. So like I think of a lot of the rappers that come out these days, and it's like, or any person that got fame or a lot of money at a really early age, and like you said, they make bigger mistakes, they do bigger things, they make bigger mistakes, but like they still have no emotional maturity. It's just funny like how the money and stuff like that like doesn't necessarily equate to having emotional maturity or like peace or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean it's all relative. A lot of things is relative. People have challenges that are relative to their abilities and their ability to meet those challenges. So like um for sure, it does it's not more money, more problems, and like it's just certain things. It's like you can only envy it from the place of not being in it. It's like you can't want what you have. So if you were in it, if you were really truly in it in certain circumstances of people that you might be envying, then you might not. You might be like, nah, never mind. Here you go, take your life back. You can have your life. I'm okay over here with my life. But
Yeah.
but people are gonna always, especially in entertainment, they're always gonna sell their lifestyle. I mean, it's pretty much their job to sell their lifestyle.
Right. So going back to what we started off with, which was verse 80 from the Tao, do you feel like you're living that more now? Like you don't really feel like you need to leave where you're at? Like to travel someplace new or something like that. Like you
Yeah,
kind of
or
feel like
or
you
even
have
if I am
everything right
traveling,
where
I'm
you're
not
at.
I'm not yeah, or even if I am traveling, I'm not going anywhere. I'm no matter, you know what I mean? No matter where you go, there you are. And shit.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
You know what I mean? So I think I'm open for traveling if it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, then yeah, I'm okay with. Like if they really got on some like crazy quarantine stuff and I couldn't leave this place and I had to like be up here growing my own food full time and like just ordering stuff, I would be okay with that. But if there is opportunity to do other things and it doesn't harm myself or others, um, then why not?
Right.
You know.
Hmm. So is there anything else that is on your mind tonight? Any thoughts that came
Nah,
up?
man, life is pretty smooth, man. It really is. It's pretty smooth. Like, I mean, it's it's a lot going on in the world or whatever, but um, if I'm just honest about what's going on right in front of me right now, like life ain't so bad. You know what I mean? It could definitely, it could probably be better. I don't know. It could probably be worse. I don't know. Again, like it kind of helps me to just to accept that I don't know, and like, uh, it's it is what it is. You know,
I
it
mean,
could be.
as long as you're accepting right now, there's kind of no such thing as better or worse.
Yeah, like, and there is all. It's always this like slight tingle of excitement, just like throughout my day. You know, it's not like I'm like, you know, I guess it is kind of like a level of it being ecstatic, like an overall steady ecstatic ecstasy, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But it's like a tingle of excitement, like, you know, and almost like I wonder what's gonna happen next. Like I heard Rick Rubin and Andre 3000, they were talking, and
That's one of my favorite interviews.
yeah, you seen what he was saying, like he was like, man, like if people didn't complain and they just looked at it like a movie, right? Like, I
Yeah,
wonder what's gonna happen next. You know what I mean? There would be a lot better way of approaching life.
yeah, yeah. Rick Rubin's actually one of my favorite interviewers. He asks like
That's the
really,
first one I ever seen.
oh
That's the
really?
first one I ever heard. I mean, yeah, I
Yeah,
never. Who else did he interview? That's big.
I feel well. I don't know. I don't know if you would. I don't know if you would know who they are. I'm pretty sure that he interviewed Kendrick Lamar. Pretty sure, but also like artists like Bon Iver, um, or Bon Iver. I don't know if you know who Bon Iver is, but
No, I can't say I'm
he
familiar.
has his own podcast called Broken Record, or yeah, I think it's just Broken Record or something like that. But yeah, he asks like some of the best questions, and I feel like in order to be a good interviewer, you have to be like on a certain level. It's like a certain level of interaction or like play off with somebody in order to like even interview them.
Yeah, yeah, like he been around the block, man. You know, he definitely been around for a long time. So his experiences and the people that he's come across, I'm sure, has brought insight to his life to where he can never go back to being the Rick Rubin that started Def Jam with Russell Simmons. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
he can never be that guy again. But you know, this way it's supposed to be, and that's like that's what makes it all dope. Is like, you know, it's kind of like Muhammad Ali said. You know what I mean? Like if you're thinking the same way at 50 that you did at 20, you know, you're doing something wrong.
Right. Yeah, I mean like there's the interviewers that like really make the person being asked like think and like appreciate the question. Like there's I feel like there's always a question that's appreciated versus one that's well, I don't know. There's that statement that says like there is no stupid question, but sometimes interviewers I feel like they don't play off of the person, like they don't play off of the person's energy well enough and then it's just like an awkward interview, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's no, yeah, it is. You know, it's people having it's always nice when your interviewer has gone through a lot of things as well, and they're not just throwing questions at, you know, and just basically like throwing darts, you know what I mean, trying to get responsive or trying to get, you know, whatever. It's kind of all just sensationalism, like Trump would say. You
Yeah.
know, but you know, when someone has really lived experiences that they can have a common ground with other people with,
Mhm.
it just makes for a way better interview. You know what I mean? But sometimes it's nice to have a contrasting it brings a lot to the light. It helps a lot of people too when you have somebody that's like really, really fucking ignorant, and they interview somebody that is aware of them of just aware. So it just
Oh my
it's funny. Like,
gosh. Yes.
yeah.
There was this one interview with it was like Bill O'Reilly and Marilyn Manson. It was such a contrasting interview. That was just like, I don't know if you like have ever seen that or
Nah, I never seen that. I know, but Marilyn is hilarious. I saw Cameron and Bill O'Reilly. You ever seen Dame Dash, Cameron and Bill O'Reilly? Have you ever seen that?
no, I'd have to look that
I'm
up.
sure. I'm sure you probably seen the meme because they made a bunch of memes about that one. But yeah, Bill O'Reilly is it's nice, to have somebody like that is this committed to being, ignorant, interviewing people. You know what I mean? It's nice. It's
Yeah.
good. It's really like it's polarizing.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
it's
it does bring up like a good debate.
yeah, it's entertaining.
So, all right, last question. When, and maybe you've said this on some form of social media or like in a video or something like that, but like, when did the Tao text meet you? Or like, when did you come in contact with that?
2013.
Like, do you remember the
2013 was the
date?
first. Wow, it was spring of 2013, or might have been. It was in California.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might have been February 2013 actually, because California is still pretty warm where I was at February 2013,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the first time I read it from cover to cover. I'd heard of Lao Tzu. I've heard Lao Tzu quotes, but that was the first time I read the Tao Te Ching from cover to cover, and yeah.
I remember.
That was a different translation. That wasn't Paul Karras either. That was the Shambhala Classics translation. It didn't stick the same. It's funny because like when I revisited it, I was like, it's like another book. This is like a totally different book, the Paul Karras version.
Yeah,
Like,
some translations are very, very different, and they
yeah,
definitely don't hit the same. But like,
yeah,
I
they're not as,
remember
yeah,
the first time that I picked the book up, it's so like I remember it's so funny, like pivotal moments like that you can actually like go back, or you don't even have to go back. It's just like I remember the moment, like I have the snapshot in my mind of like when I picked up the Tao Te Ching in Barnes and Noble and I sat down, and I remember like I had I was like on a date, and we went to Barnes and Noble, and we were just like looking at books, and I picked up the Tao Te Ching, and we were like, we both just had like picked up books to read, like just to skim through. And I'm like reading the Tao, and I'm like showing him all the different verses. I'm like, holy shit, like you need to read this. Like you need to read this. And
yeah.
like, I don't know, maybe it
Uh,
wasn't resonating with him that much, but I'm like, how are you not seeing that this is so fucking transformational to read? It's like every line is super healing. And it was like such
yeah,
a pivotal
no.
moment.
I remember it though. I remember it. I remember at that time I had bought so many books that it kind of didn't. I had so much other shit in my head that
Yeah.
like at that time in that same 2-3 month period, I read the Quran and the Bible. Well, I already read the Quran before,
Hmm.
and I had been acquainted with the Bible, but I read the Quran and the Bible, the Tao Te Ching, and a few other books cover to cover, all in like a 2-3 month period. So it was like none of it all stuck the way it could have. But um, the Tao Te Ching, like I remember it though. I remember I went to Avid Reader in Sacramento. It's right next to Dimple Books or Dimple Records. I went to Avid Reader and it was a pocket Tao Te Ching. And I remember buying it at the same time I bought the Quran and the Bible in there. And it was definitely it was dope. It stuck. It definitely stuck. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like Paul Karras version, like all 81, they're pointing across, whereas like maybe like 30 of the ones out of the Shambhala one got it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and at the same time, I wasn't in the same place of receiving as I am now.
Right. It's kind of the same thing too with like the different readings of it on YouTube. Like I remember there's only there's a few different readings of the Tao Te Ching on YouTube and like even fewer of the Wahoo Ching on YouTube. And I think you're one of the few that actually reads it. And there's like
Yeah,
one other person that does and like I almost just couldn't follow along and then I read the comments and there was other people that were like, wow, this person's voice, like I just can't
that's why I did
get
it.
the energy.
That's why I did it because honestly, I never read the Wahoo Ching first. I listened to that audiobook with that terrible voice like dozens of times, Joe. You know, and I was like, man, his voice is inspiring me to do this myself. It's fucking terrible, but
Yeah.
I'm glad he did it though.
Yeah, I mean it's honestly it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to be able to read a text like that and not have like and to read it evenly, like in an even tone, in a peaceful tone that's like gentle and soft and easy to hear,
Yeah,
versus like
cause yeah,
go ahead.
no, cause you listen to the guy that reads The Secret of the Golden Flower. His voice, the intensity of the words make it hard to follow. His voice isn't so bad, but he's saying it so intense that you kind of like. It's like if everything had an exclamation point and like, you know what I mean? You're like, man, it's not congealing the way
Yeah.
it should.
That's so funny. That like goes back to the point of like it's really when something brings peace that it really kind of makes you do a double take like, oh, that really makes sense. That really resonates. Like I want to listen to that.
It's not like a fleeting piece too. It's like a piece that's like, this will be with me for the rest of my life. I'll never be able to deny this. This is true forever. It's a universal truth. It's not like a fleeting chemical piece. You know what I mean? It's like this is gonna never. I'll never be the same person after this. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like anything that brings about fear is most likely it's a lie. Fear and lies are like always one, and they're like two ends of the same coin. Like it's like if it's bringing that real peace, it's always gonna it's like it's really attractive. Those are really things that bring peace are really attractive,
They
and things
are.
that bring fear are repelling.
It's funny how like a tone can do that. I remember like as a kid, my dad would always be like super jealous of like people that like I would listen to like other people and not listen to him, but like his tone of voice was so like aggressive and angry and uh like desperate that I was like, no matter what you say, it's just funny that like people can say things, they can say the same words but with a different tone and it's just perceived like a completely different way.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, like for sure. If you listen to the Tao Te Ching audiobook with Stephen Mitchell, it's gonna sink in way more than somebody else. I don't know the way he says it. You can tell he might have took days to do it. You know, I had to do Wahoo Ching in like 2 hours, an hour and a half or something like that. You know what I mean? Like the Stephen Mitchell probably was like, I'm gonna do 3 of these a day for I don't know what however many days that is. What is it? 30 days almost. So like
Stephen Mitchell
that's
is
probably
the
how he did
one
it.
that says
That's
that
that.
he did like
That's
14 years of Zen training.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, he's good.
yeah, yeah. And he did the second book of the Tao. I don't know if you listened. He did that audio book and he rewrote it. It's Chuangzu's. It's mainly Chuangzu quotes.
Hmm.
It's some Lao Tzu in there, but it's mainly Chuangzu. And that shit is dope because it's his voice. Because it's not really as good as the Tao Te Ching, but it's pretty dope because you can listen to him. You know,
Right.
like, so
Yeah, that's pretty crazy how like just the tone of voice It just says so much.
What you say and how you say it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we're at a place where we could end this.
Yeah, it's a solid 3 hours. It's almost 10:30 my time now.
Wait, no
So
way.
it's getting, yeah.
All right, yeah, perfect.
Yeah, right on time, man. Yeah, I guess send that to me, or you probably have to send it to me in Drive or something. But yeah, thank you for this, Ange.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here.
No doubt, man. I guess rest well when you do, and be easy.
You too. Have a good night.
You too. Peace.
Bye.